trying to think from where to start. It's a bit difficult to find the correct starting point. You know, Rinpoche, from our understanding, have been actually helping and guiding us for a very, very long time. No? Which we say from many, many lives. But normally when I think about the story of Rinpoche's this life, I like to start thinking about the moment in which Rinpoche passed away in his previous life. You know? And for me it was very particular. Rinpoche's previous life was called Kachen Sapenla. No, he was thin and tall and sedentary. He would not travel anywhere. He would always stay in one place. Very humble. He would very often sit outside, like in a place without the importance of the main Lama. And there would be, he was a healer, very well known healer. And many people would come for advice and for healing. And one thing that happened quite often was that people would come to ask for advice. And they arrived in the village where he was, which was in the village where there was the monastery, village of Gangchen. And then there was the monastery and the retreat center. He would live in the retreat center called the Drupkang. And as people would arrive, he would be outside. And when someone from outside would come that they wanted to meet Kachen Sapenla, they would come and they would ask, "Oh, is this where the great master Kachen Sapenla lives?" and so on. "Do you know where he is?" You say, "Oh, yes, you want to meet him, you go there, ask for him." But it was already him. You know, he would be outside, dressed so humbly, being so simple that basically he would never impose into others like an importance, presence, and he was very, very simple. And then some people from the local villages would complain that he was too humble, you know. They wanted to have a Lama that was more like imposing with, sort of great importance. And even though he was very, very high realized and many, many very, very important people from Tibet would come for advice, he would be the most humble and simple like monk going around, even though he was a very important Lama. And he will always be there to help people. And when the simple people, humble people would come, he would not request them to do offerings or prostrations or anything. He would just help them in whatever they needed directly. Like traditionally in Tibet was common that Lamas, when you go to ask for support or for advice or for healing, you need to pay a lot of respect, you make an offering and so on. He would always take with him his dices for advice and everything for healing and so on. And anyone he will meet on the road, "Oh, I need some, okay, come here, give me what you need." And he will give the advice directly, walking on the path. You know, very, very easygoing. And he was being invited to go to many places. And he would always answer, "No, not in this life." He would say, "Next life, I will be reborn short, round." And then one day, he was in the retreat center, and Trichan Dorje Chan, which at the time in Tibet, we are talking about, was maybe the 39, 40 that years. And what happened was that Trichan Rinpoche was the guru of the Dalai Lama. So, most high Lama in Tibet. And one day he went to see Kachen Sapenla. He was passing by that area. We can imagine that time to travel from Shigatse to Lhasa was few days walking. It was not like nowadays. So Trichan Rinpoche was not all the time there. So he was passing by, and he stopped in the Gangchen monastery to see Kachen Sapenla. I always like to imagine these scenes, because time was very different. Because traveling was so slow, they would take the time to go to see places and people on the way. He was making his traveling, I don't remember from where to where, Trijang Rinpoche at the time, and he was passing by where Gangchen Monastery was, so he stopped to go to see Kachin Sapen La. So he stopped, he arrived in the evening in Gangchen Monastery, and when he arrived there, afternoon, something like this, he requested an audience with Kachin Sapen La. Than him, he had a lot of respect for Kachin Sapen La, even though he was one of the most important lamas of Tibet. He asked, "Oh, can I see you?" What would be the most obvious question? The guru of the Dalai Lama have come? Would be yes, no? Kachin Sapen La answered no. He said, "Not now." He said, "We will meet very soon, but not now." And that night, Trijang Rinpoche was received with the greatest of respect and so on, but Kachin Sapen La said, "Not today, we will meet soon." And that night in which Trijang Rinpoche was sleeping in the monastery, and Kachin Sapen La was in the retreat center, which walking was like not even 5 minutes one from the other, like few hundred meters distance. During that night, Kachin Sapen La passed away. So he created with Trijang Rinpoche at that moment this interdependence in which Trijang Rinpoche had the commitment to see him and he had the commitment to see Trijang Rinpoche. And Kachin Sapen La at that time, he actually prepared himself for his death because he had a lot of knowledge, but the place where he was living was with very simple people without so much knowledge. So he said, people don't know how to do when a Lama dies, so I need to do all by myself. So basically, he did, for example, he prepared everything for the fire puja to be done later. He actually entered into special diet before dying so that when the body is burned, it doesn't have bad smell. And he did all sorts of things in order to, like, sort of panchakarma, to cleanse the body. Before being cremated, and he gave very clear signs that that was his moment. And then came this interesting interdependence that Trijang Rinpoche was there. So after that, Trijang Rinpoche took the commitment to find his reincarnation. So in this life, that's how the connection was created. No? So after that, when they did the cremation, there are some signs that came. When you look in the ashes, the direction to which the smoke went, and the signs that were left on the ashes after the cremation, and all this type of things. So anyhow, 3 years later, Trijang Rinpoche recognized the reincarnation of Kachin Sapen La, in which he recognized Rinpoche. He was a young boy, 3 years old. And when Rinpoche was born in the Drukpa Tseshi, which means the 4th day of the 6th month of the lunar calendar, of the Tibetan lunar calendar, which is the day in which Buddha gave the first time the Four Noble Truths teachings. And Rinpoche was born at dawn, so as the sun was shining early in the morning. And it is said that as he was born, the light came in so strong at that moment that later, gradually, his mother got blind by how so strong light came in the room as she was giving birth. Then, after being recognized as 3, Rinpoche went to the monastery with 5. So he entered into Tashilumpo Monastery, and then Rinpoche said that for the first years he would memorize most of the prayers and the sadhanas and the texts, and he would go to see his guru, who was never laying down to sleep. His teacher in Tashilumpo was Kachin Pemba La, if I remember well. Caroline, you remember? The name of his teacher in Tashilumpo was Kachin Pemba La, I think. I'm not 100% sure now. I think it was Kachin Pemba La. And what he would do was that he would never lay down to sleep. So just try to imagine it will be this. I know Tashilumpo quite well, so for me it's more easy to try to see the place. But it's ancient monastery, and Rinpoche would wake up very early, since a young boy, together with all the boys, like maybe 1-2 hours before sunrise. And then once they do that, they would go first. They still do this in Tashi Lungpa Monastery. They first would go to the main prayer hall, and at the entrance of the main prayer hall in Tashi Lungpa, there is the entrance of the door. No? How do you say? I don't know how to say that in English. Lo stipite della porta. This metal part that you have in the front, no? That of the door frame. And it's made of silver there. And what the children do in the morning, they go there, they clean it with their clothes first, and then they do Omarapatanadi, 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 then they lick it. You know? Omarapatanadi, which is the mantra of wisdom, of intelligence. So they will do this early in the morning, Omarapatanadi, and they clean with it. Then they say that this was a tradition that's saying that doing that will increase intelligence. Anyhow. So from that, Rinpoche did that for many years. Then after that, he will go to his teacher, Kachen Pembala. His teacher would never sleep. Not his whole life, but after, when he finished his preparation with all the retreats and so on, he was making live retreats. So during the night time, he would just sit in meditation. Maximum just extend a little bit the legs and stay there in meditation. And then early in the morning, he will just start the day. So when Rinpoche would reach there, would be like very, very early in the morning, like I think around 4, like 1.5, 2 hours before sunrise. So Rinpoche would go there, very young. Rinpoche didn't know how to read at the time. He didn't know how to read or write. So he would go there, touch the knees of his teacher. Oh, I am here. I say, yes. And then Rinpoche would recite the verse that he had memorized the last day. So, for example, if it was Sangye Chodon Soge Chonamla Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi Dage Jinso Gibe Sonamge Drola Pencher Sangye Drubrasho, a prayer that many of you know. Let's say he had memorized the first verse, so he will say Sangye Chodon Soge Chonamla. Then his teacher would say, okay, Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi. He would say many times until Rinpoche would repeat back. Until Rinpoche understood. Then Rinpoche would stay near to him, memorizing. Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi, Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi, Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi, Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi, Janju Bardo Danye Kyapsuchi. So, until he learned, then when he finished memorizing the line, he would go there again to the knees of his teacher. Oh, I got. Then he would give the next one to him. So Rinpoche did this every morning, or mostly, since he was 5 to 12. Okay. So for all this time, when Rinpoche was in Tashi Lungpa, early in the morning, he would go to his teacher before sunrise, lick the entrance of the monastery, make the prayers, and then go to there, and then he will memorize. And he memorized a lot like that. And he learned how to read later. So this was like the old tradition of learning the prayers by oral transmission. His teacher knew by heart, and he would say to him, and he would learn by heart. In this way, Then, when Rinpoche was 12 years old, there were some problems in Tashi Lungpa Monastery. Basically, Rinpoche was said to be a child that was very intelligent, kind, and full of energy. He said that Rinpoche was like incredible full of energy. And then, so in the monastery, we need to remember that Tibet at that time was like medieval ages, okay, cultural-wise. It was really like a feudal theocratic system. And if we ask here in the Western world, 3 generations back, 2 generations back, 3 generations back, would children ever get beaten? Or not? Yes. I would say yes. No, nowadays you cannot touch even with the little finger a child, but how it was few generations ago. I don't know, your grandparents, did they ever get beaten in school or by their parents and so on? I would say yes, no? So in Tibet was very much like that. It was, Tibet at that time was this type of culture, and it was normal. It was part like since it says that since children was very small, like they make pee in the wrong place, boom, well, not much talking. So Rinpoche had a lot of energy. Even though he would study well, he was kind, he had all the qualities, he was not following so well the rules of the monastery that were given to him as a child because he had too much energy. So sometimes he got beaten, which was quite common at the time. But one time his teacher beat him so hard that it was winter time, don't need to go into all the details, but he was beaten very hard. So Rinpoche escaped from the monastery. He got so upset that he escaped from the sewage system because the monastery had walls all around. Tashilhunpo, up to today, has wall all around. So it was not easy to get out. So the sewage system for the rainwater, where all the dirty rainwater would go, he was able to go through there. He escaped and he went walking to his home village, which was very far away walking distance, especially in the winter of Tibet. So from this we could see, since a very young age, this incredible strength of determination. It's like, for me, it's beautiful to see the qualities of Rinpoche in many levels, as a Buddha and also as human qualities. So Rinpoche had this incredible determination. Whatever he thought was the right, he would do it. It didn't matter if he had mountains in front of him, or if he needed to fight with giants. It didn't matter. He would go, So he went walking from there in the winter, and no food, no real clothes, heavy clothes, nothing. And in the middle, not even much before middle of the way, he told me where it was. Now I don't remember the precise name of the place, but not very far from there, some people saw him, and they came to see, and they were disciples of his previous life. So was one family that were like an important local family that were disciples of his previous life. So they took him home. He explained what happened. They took care of Rinpoche, they gave him food, and they took very nice care of him. So they went to talk on his behalf to the monastery. They said, we don't bring him here unless you promise that you are not going to punish him. So they accepted. So Rinpoche went to Gangchen Monastery. Then in Gangchen Monastery, Rinpoche first he gave an examination of everything that he had learned in Tashilhunpo, which for them was a lot. He gave this examination, and from that moment on, he started living in Gangchen Monastery. He continued his studies and practice in Gangchen Monastery. And he stayed in Gangchen Monastery, if I am not mistaken, for another 3 years. And then, again, there were problems. So I think it's important for all of us to know that, Rinpoche, in all his life, it's not that because he was such an incredible, amazing, everything was always easy. It was not like that, And the life of all the great masters, and they always have shown us the importance of putting effort, because the life of none of them was like spontaneously easy, not even the life of Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay? So Rinpoche was in Gangchen Monastery, and then happened that a certain number of elder monks in the monastery, they start to get envy of Rinpoche. If we tell nowadays, it looks the most absurd thing. But what happened at the time was that in the monastery, whenever there was a big ceremony where they would offer food, they had a very precise hierarchy of the places where people would be sitting. So the elder will get the best part of the meat, and the ones below will get the last. And the last one, he would get a piece of Tibet, 4,500 meters high. At that time, they ate a lot of meat. So the last one in the line, he will get a piece of meat with no fat and maybe just a little bit of bone. So they would divide. So when Rinpoche was there, he was the first one in line because he was the reincarnation of the founder of the monastery, Pancha Sampotashi. So there was a number of people that they felt that they are left there. They start to have not such good meat anymore because there was Rinpoche getting before them. So they were saying that's not correct. he's not the real reincarnation of Panchasampotashi. And they start to create a lot of rumors and a lot of problems inside the monastery towards Rinpoche. So Rinpoche was 15 at the time, around 14, 15. So at that time, Rinpoche's teachers took him to see His Holiness Trichan Dorje Chang. Trichan Rinpoche was passing by, going nearby, so they went to see him. And at that time they went to see, and one of the main issues was, please help us with this issue in the monastery. Because it was creating a lot of conflict and problems, and people will start doubting and making problems to Rinpoche. So Trichan Rinpoche, he was first extremely kind, and Rinpoche said that first he filled Rinpoche with a lot of sweets and presents, and he was very, very kind. He was saying that Trichan Rinpoche knew how to speak with the president in the way how you should speak to a president, or if he would speak with a king as you should speak to a king, and when he would speak with a child, how speaking to a child. He would adapt himself so beautifully. So he was speaking to Rinpoche, and the things that he was saying, he would make Rinpoche repeat back to see if he had understood well, and so on. So he said, we are friends, right? Rinpoche said, yes, sure. So first of all, we are friends. Then he said, how much have you studied? How much have you memorized? And Rinpoche said, I have memorized more or less this amount. 1.5 volume, more or less. Most of us, in 10 lifetimes, would not memorize that. So anyhow, which it was quite common at the time, and but was good. And then Trichan Rinpoche said to him, very good, but a real Lama, who is a Lama not only by name, but by knowledge and experience, should know much more than that. Then he asked, look, I can give you 2 possibilities. Or I can give you a very important title called Hotutu, which was a title at the time that because Trichan Rinpoche was the guru of the Dalai Lama, he had an important political position, so he could give a title that Rinpoche, anywhere he would go in the whole of Tibet, he would be served and respected. It didn't matter where he go with that title. And he said, or I can give you this title, and then I will assure you that no one will ever make you any trouble anymore. Or if you want, then I can send you to study in Lhasa at Seda Monastery to become a real Lama. What do you want, to become a real Lama or to have an important title? And Rinpoche said, I want to become a real Lama. So Trichan Rinpoche organized for Rinpoche to go to Lhasa. So once there, Trichan Rinpoche assigned one teacher to take care of Rinpoche and to teach him there. And was called NgalSo Chapel. And then at the same time, NgalSo Chapel assigned 2 of his disciples to take care of Rinpoche as attendants also. So the ones that went to pick up Rinpoche in Lhasa the first time was later my philosophy teacher, who was Geshe Tupten Rinchen, and Gyal Hakpala, who was always later taking care of me in the monastery, was cooking for Rinpoche at Seda Monastery at that time also. So Rinpoche arrived there, and he was taken care by NgalSo Chapel, by Trichan Rinpoche, and Rinpoche stayed for a few years in Lhasa, studying, learning, practicing, receiving many empowerments from many masters under direct care of Trichan Rinpoche. So we see how are things in life, no? Because of the issue that Rinpoche was bitten, he escaped. That brought him to go to Gangchen Monastery. Because some people there were envy, he ended up going to talk to Trichan Rinpoche. That brought him finally to go to Lhasa, which was the moment in which Rinpoche actually started to be under the direct care of Trichan Rinpoche, to receive all the empowerments and everything. So a very, very important part of Rinpoche's education and was done actually in Lhasa under the direct care of Trichan Rinpoche. So it's always interesting to see how the conditions manifest in life. Then after some time came 1959, in which the monastery was invaded by the Red Army and so on. Then Rinpoche left Lhasa No, his teacher escaped and so on. And he went to Trobo Monastery, which was the monastery of Rinpoche's previous life, founded that monastery. Trobo Lotsawa was the monastery of Trobo Lotsawa. Rinpoche stayed there for 1 year, making sort of retreat. And after that, the temple had been destroyed. So Rinpoche, with his own bare hands, he rebuilt the monastery wall. They had a very big statue of Buddha Maitreya. So Rinpoche rebuilt that statue with his hands. He remade the whole, not the statue, the whole temple around for that. No? Then there was a period in Rinpoche, he was in a camp of labor. And this was actually, what was happening at the time was that Chinese were bringing to Tibet a sort of socialist revolution. Tibet had come from a, how do you call that, theocratical, feudal system, no? And then in 1949 was when initially Mao Zedong talked with the Dalai Lama and so on, and he said, you need to change your system from a feudal system to a socialist system. And he gave the Dalai Lama 17 points that they needed to change in society. And what happened was that after, in 59, and they gave him 10 years to make this change in society. So after 10 years, the 17 points had not been fully fulfilled. So Mao Zedong had sent full army, which were all surrounding already Lhasa at that time. No? So they applied a lot of socialist change. So they made very strong cultural, social change. So one of the things that happened at the time was that they inverted the values of society. So those that were on the top of the society, they needed to do the most humble works and to go down, and the other way around. So who was at the top of Tibetan society? The aristocracy and the lamas, the gurus. So because Rinpoche's family was not the most higher, most rich family, but was a well-done family. So they were treated, in Rinpoche's village was an important family. So they were put completely to serve everyone else and were put into that lower position. And because Rinpoche was the most respected from all, being the Lama of the whole place, he was put to do the most humbles of the job. So for example, for some long time, Rinpoche would need to go and, how do you say that, make the cleaning, not the cleaning, sorry, to when you put in the plantation, in the fields, you need to bring and put, not sowing, when you put after that, you need to concime, like to fertilize, sort of. So how they would do that? With kaka, no? But basically what they would do, the Chinese had a system, they will make a sort of a big pot where the people would do kaka and pipi. And then they need to take that with a bucket and with the bare hands put it on the fields. So that was the work of Rinpoche for quite some time also. You know? So imagine the lamas that were treated with so much great respect, suddenly they were exactly in the opposite position. No? So Rinpoche was into this place for some time, I don't know exactly how long. But Rinpoche told me once that he said that during that time was when he actually started to see his qualities. Because up to then, he was treated with a lot of respect everywhere he was. And he didn't need so much to help people. But when he was there and there was so much difficulty around, that's when actually he started to manifest more strongly his qualities as healer, to heal people, to support people, even though he was in a very difficult situation because he was treated quite badly, even compared to others. Like if it was the moment of food, he would be the last one to receive food, the rest of the food. Before would be the opposite, you know. Then now he would be receiving the rest of the food and like the remainings and things like that, no. And even though it was like that, Rinpoche was always able to keep his stability. He was well, and he was giving support and helping the other people. No? So he was able to live that because at some point the head of this working, how to say, like sort of labor camp that was there, had some health issues. Someone, I think his daughter or something like that, I don't remember precisely now. And Rinpoche healed them. They had no money, didn't know what to do, so they brought to Rinpoche, and Rinpoche was able to do the healing and to heal them. So these people developed faith in Rinpoche, and based on that, they helped Rinpoche also to live. So Rinpoche left together with some people from his family and some friends, and they left. They needed to find one excuse why they were traveling at that time. It was not easy to travel. Whenever anyone was seen traveling, they would ask, where are you going from? Where did you come? And so on. So there was one of Rinpoche's cousin, sort of cousin, I think. Now, Tibetans call Pingya. Pingya means all sort of family. I don't know where I remember. She was pregnant. So they invented the story that actually she was pregnant from an not only outside of marriage, but from someone from the family. And this was something very negative as seen. So there was one place near to the border which was special for purification. So they're saying that they were accompanying her there to do this karma purification and so on for the child and this and that and so on. So they invented this whole story through which they were coming. No? And they went through many very, very dangerous and difficult moments and so on. No? And when they were traveling, Rinpoche said that before leaving, Rinpoche made a very deep and very strong prayer. And in this prayer he said, he asked for protection. And he said, if during my travel, please protect me from being caught. If I am to be caught, I prefer to die and go to another life. But if I get protection and I am not caught and I can go well, I make my full commitment that I will dedicate my whole life for the Dharma and for the benefit of others. No? Without any doubt, I will dedicate it completely in this way. So Rinpoche left. There is like all the details from going, and it was quite difficult, but everything went very smooth. Very, very smooth. They were able to go there were no really problems, and even though it was very danger, they were able to escape in a very peaceful way. This was in 1963. Okay, so 4 years after he left Lhasa, basically. And in that time, one story that Rinpoche told was that when they arrived in the border with India, they were building roads in that place. So in order to make the roads in the mountains, they used dynamite to explode the rocks in order to make the road. So Rinpoche, together with his other travel companions, they were going through this forest with high trees in the middle of the mountain, and suddenly they were in the middle of the place where they were exploding. So suddenly they got all these explosions. They all fell to the floor. They had rocks flying in the air and trees falling and all of that. And they were completely under the trees and everything. So they checked everybody was healthy and alive and so on. And when they came out of all this dust, they start walking in the middle of all this. Then there was the Indian military that they were there, and they saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" Like ghosts coming out of somewhere, And then they took them, and they were already amazed that they were alive. And anyhow, and Rinpoche said that when they arrived in India and they were received by the Indian military, Rinpoche for a moment he had the feeling, said, okay, now finally everything is fine, now we can relax. And he said that actually happened the opposite, no? He said everything up to that moment was smooth. Then after that he starts to get many difficulties. So the first moment, he said that when arrived in India, he was questioned by one soldier from the Indian government, Indian military soldier. And the soldier made a question to him was, did you meet any Chinese on your way? And Rinpoche said, yes. And then as an answer, this guy, he came and he slapped in Rinpoche's face very strongly. And Rinpoche, he said, when he received that, the first thought that he has, he said, oh, I'm still in samsara, Arrive here, looks like we were out of the whole suffering, but here it's still samsara as the same, it doesn't matter where you go. And the guy was saying that Rinpoche was saying, don't lie to me. Don't dare to lie to me. If you had met any Chinese, you would not be here, you would not be allowed. Rinpoche said, it was a Chinese merchant on the way, someone we met, and they didn't say anything. Anyhow, then from that moment on, Rinpoche arrived in India, and he started gradually to go to see his guru, Trijang Rinpoche, and then he went to Seda Monastery in the south of India, when he went through the process of studying. And one very, very beautiful thing that happened during all that years in India, most of the Tibetans that had left Tibet at the time, the monks, all the monks and lamas, they had full dedication for learning and practicing the Dharma. There were not so many other worries. So they had full dedication for retreats and for study and everything. And Rinpoche had always had this very strong energy to do things and to start and so on. So in Seda Monastery, at that time, the Indian government was very, very kind to all Tibetans, and they gave a lot of land as refugees. They were extremely poor at the time. So the place where they had their gompa was made out of bamboo. They had a bamboo house with some cloth, but was like a bamboo hut. That was the first gompa, and they were sleeping in some sort of bamboo huts also. There were no houses at the time, no? And 80% of them had tuberculosis and so on. That's another thing. It's just to say it was not a very easy period. And then Rinpoche, he was the first person to receive the degree of Geshe and to make the Geshe ceremony, which is the ceremony which is done as a conclusion of the studies of philosophy, a very important ceremony. So Rinpoche was the first one that did it in India, at Sera in India. And since that time, Rinpoche also had this thing like, he invited everyone to come. He invited all the lamas from the Sakya, Nyingma, Kagyu, Gelug tradition, from all the traditions, and invited all the people from Tibetan government. He invited everyone to come, And people were wondering, how can you even give food to all these people, Because at the time, to invite everyone for lunch was not easy. People didn't have money even to buy their own food, And Rinpoche was able, who knows how he managed. But I don't know if he made some loans for sure and how he managed, but he invited everyone and he made something quite big at the time. And he made a beautiful tanka that he offered to Seda Monastery, which was a tanka of Buddha Maitreya, with Dorji Shukden down. Beautiful tanka of Buddha Maitreya, and behind he asked Trijang Rinpoche to make a dedication. So there is the imprints, the hands of Trijang Rinpoche behind, with a prayer that Trijang Rinpoche composed, in which was written world peace inside that prayer. So Rinpoche said later, that was already an auspicious sign that I would dedicate my life to peace. Anyhow, after that Rinpoche, he was the head Lama in south of India to take care of the lay people of the community. Because there were lamas that were teaching philosophy in the monastery and so on, and he was assigned as the Lama to take care of the lay people of the community, which meant being their psychologist, being their doctor, being their friend, helping on everything. So Rinpoche would go to the houses of people and people would come and say, Rinpoche, I want to have child and I cannot have child. Rinpoche, I have this problem, I fought with this one and I had that thing. And he would start and he would travel from house to house and he would help them. And at that time, also Rinpoche was known as the Lama of the poor, because Rinpoche's intention was always to help a lot, and no one was able to invite anyone, a Lama, to come if didn't have the money to offer food and to make some offering. You would not, inside Tibetan culture, you would not invite a Lama if you cannot give anything to him. No? So Rinpoche, he knew the needs of people. So for example, if he needed to go to one puja that was in Verbania, he would leave much earlier. And he would go walking early, and he would stop in Bé, in Vignone, here, there. He will stop in all the places, in the houses of the people, in the village. And then he, oh, why are you here? Oh, I need to go there. I'm just passing by. And then people would say, oh, I have this problem and I have that problem. And then he will do the pujas and he will do the healings and all of that, And then finally, early in the morning, he will reach. He will go walking through the night, and early in the morning he will reach the house of the family, and then he will do all the healings and the pujas and so on. So that time he would take care also of other lamas. There is also a very nice connection, because there were two very important lamas from our lineage, which was Kagachetsun Tampa and the other one, it slipped from my mind, but is the father of Kunsang, the wife of Trijang Rinpoche. Yes, Kagyu Lama. Yeah, but he was a Kagyu Lama, but actually he was first disciple of Song Rinpoche, Rinpoche's guru. And then he was recognized as a Lama from another tradition, from a Kagyu tradition. And at some point he left the monastic life, he disrobed. So he was living there. And they were extremely poor. And at that time, a Lama, if he was not in part of the monastery anymore and so on, he was not being much taken into consideration either. So Rinpoche would go everywhere for pujas and so on, and he would receive tsog. He would make tsog offering, and he would come back with food. So he would always pass in the house of these two lamas, and he would bring all his tsog and give to them. So he would give that. So the father of Kunsang, which is the wife of Trijang Rinpoche nowadays, the mother actually said once to Kunsang, she said, in the moments in my life when we had the greatest difficulties, the only one that truly took care of us with so much love was Lama Gangchen. So Rinpoche was always looking for everyone, what were the needs, and truly with respect and with kindness. And at that time Rinpoche was a little bit known also as the Lama of the poor. Because what he was doing also is when he was walking and talking to people and listening to advice, people had a lot of material problems. People were very, very poor, no money to eat basically. So Rinpoche would go to the little bit richer family and ask a loan, without explaining what it was for maybe. And then he would take the money and then he would give it to the people that were in need. Sort of Robin Hood, but instead of stealing, he was making loans. And then he was giving to the people that had more needs. Then there is this story which somehow for me it shows a little bit how Rinpoche came to the West later. Which Rinpoche had, we were already in the 70s. In the meantime, Rinpoche went to Varanasi, where he studied in Sanskrit University. But actually during the time that he was in Sanskrit University, more than studying Sanskrit, he was serving his guru Song Rinpoche, who was teaching in another university nearby. Anyhow. And during that time, Rinpoche had a very special relationship with Kyabche Song Rinpoche, because he asked Song Rinpoche, can you please make your questions and can you please me teach the Dharma, not only in a formal way, but also informally. Like we are sitting in a restaurant, can I make you a Dharma question? Something that normally would not happen. And Song Rinpoche said yes. So he was helping Song Rinpoche to go to the market together. He was being there serving him for many years. Anyhow, we were basically in the 70s, end of the 70s. And then Rinpoche, he prepared everything to do a 1-year retreat. He built a small house. At that time, he had already had this sort of vision in which he should go to a place, he should establish himself for his practice and for his lineage, in a place where there should be lake in the front, 5 mountains, in the center mountain where he should establish himself. So the place where he was at the time, it was in camp number 2, Kailashpura, in south of India. There was a small artificial lake and a sort of a very small hill. So Rinpoche said, you can never trust visions really so much, They are sort of metaphors. Maybe this is the place for me. So with a lot of effort, Rinpoche built a tiny, tiny house. I have been there a few times. It was maybe a 3 by 3, very small, very simple house, and then he prepared everything. But then the first night when he slept there, he dreamt of a snake going to sleep in a house made of sand. Then when he woke up, he understood, I will not stay for long in this house. Because Rinpoche himself, he was from the Chinese sign of the snake. And the sand house means an unstable house. So he said, I would not stay for long here. Anyhow, he prepared everything to do at least 1 year retreat, solitary retreat. He organized how to prepare for the food, he made the place for him to sit, he prepared everything. And then he went to his friend, Gen Lakpala, who was later my teacher, who was his cook in Tibet before, and who was a friend and an elder, little older than Rinpoche. And then when he went there and he said, Rinpoche, I would like to tell Geshe-la, I would like to tell you, Genla, that I am going now to enter into retreat. I have organized myself to do 1 year retreat. And I have organized myself to do 1 year retreat. So I just want to come to share with you this news and so on. And Gen Lakpala, who was a person of not many words, but when he would speak, he would be very direct. Gen Lakpala just said to Rinpoche, if I was you, I would not be able not even to make 1 mala of mantras in this retreat. Then Rinpoche said that he was a bit upset. He said, what are you saying? What's the problem with my retreat? And Gen Lakpala said, with so many people wondering when will you pay their debts. How could you ever go into retreat? He said, I would not be able to sit relaxed in meditation while I have so many debts to pay. All these people are always coming to me as your friend to ask, when is Rinpoche going to pay my debts? Can you say something to Rinpoche? Because they didn't have the courage to go directly to Rinpoche, so they would go to his friend. And he said, I'm not saying this to you all the time, but many people are in need, and you have lended money from them, and they need that money. And then Gen Lakpala said that they didn't have a very nice talk. Rinpoche was a little bit upset between them, it was not very smooth. But finally Rinpoche went back to his place. Then Rinpoche later came and he said, I'm going to retreat later. And he organized to go to Kalimpong, where it was in Sikkim. The king of Sikkim had invited Rinpoche as a healer to take care of his mother that was sick with eye problem. So Rinpoche went there, and Rinpoche's proposal was, I go to Sikkim, I stay there 3 months, I do the healing in the for the mother of the king, I get some offerings, I come back, I pay all the debts, and I go back to retreat. That was his plan. The only issue is that the 3 months became almost 3 years in Sikkim. Because Rinpoche had so much success with healing that he was given a room in the royal palace of the Sikkim king, which royal palace is a very small palace, compared to our modern rich places. But Rinpoche had this room, and from sunrise there was already a line of people waiting to see him. Because imagine, come one Lama that was able to cure mother of the king, everybody have problems. So he had a line of people coming to see him from early morning during the whole day. So Rinpoche, during that time, his attendant was Champa and Sobonla from Greece, Sonam, that is staying in Greece nowadays. They were being Rinpoche's attendant at the time also. And Rinpoche was doing all sorts of pujas. There was, for example, one village in the middle of the mountains where they had problems that every winter a lot of snow will fall on the way and would kill many people, a sort of avalanches. So Rinpoche went there and he did special pujas to protect from avalanches. Then later this problem never repeated again. And they had places where they had issues with spirits, and Rinpoche was able to put away the spirits. And he did a lot of healing activities in that whole area. So Rinpoche was dedicating himself fully to this. During that time, the family of Tseten Gyurme, our friend from Nepal, who were disciples and sponsors of Rinpoche's previous life. his family was the disciples and sponsors of Rinpoche's previous life, so they took care of the reincarnation. So they invited Rinpoche to go to Nepal to offer the first long life puja for Rinpoche. This was, I think, 80 or something like this. So Rinpoche went there, and there was this long life puja, which was offered to Rinpoche during the New Year time in Kathmandu. That's when started the tradition to make long life puja for Rinpoche at Losar time in Kathmandu. It started at that time. And during that time, there was a friend of Tseten Gyurme, who was sort of friend, business partner, which was called Yurgo Kasiapis, no? Kasibis. So Yurgo, this Greek man, I knew quite well his son. His son was called Michael. And his son, when his parents, him and his wife, basically when the son was 6, they went to Lama Yeshe. And they say, oh, here is our son, we offer him to you. You take care. And they gave the son to Lama Yeshe. So the little boy, this little Greek boy, came to the monastery in Kopan and became a monk like all the other little Tibetan monks together. And he later went to study in Sera. It was quite funny somehow to see this beautiful, strong Greek man, like perfectly Greek face, in the middle of all the Tibetans, like perfectly as a Tibetan. He felt more Tibetan than the others, sitting there. We were good friends in the monastery. Anyhow. So Yurgo, he went to Rinpoche and he said he was very much touched. He had met many lamas. And he had a center in Greece called Karuna Center. So he was very, very touched by Rinpoche. And so he went to Rinpoche and he said, Rinpoche, please, I would like to invite you to come to Greece. And Rinpoche said, no. There is no point me going to Greece. There are so many great lamas giving much more, with much better preparation than me, giving teachings in the West. You can call some one of them. There is no need for me to come, and I am too busy around here. Too many people need me here. And then he insisted, and finally Rinpoche said, okay, I would go to the West with one condition. If there are sick people in your country, that your doctors don't know anymore what to do, and I am allowed to help. And Yurgo said, don't worry, we have no problem with that, And then basically, after a very short period, few months, Yurgo organized everything very fast. And then Tseten Gyurme went as a translator. And Tseten says that he didn't want originally to go. Tseten was a young Tibetan, intelligent man with modern mentality who wanted to make business and money. He didn't care about spiritual practice so much at the time. And he said, okay, but out of respect for family, tradition, he went as Rinpoche's translator. And this one day, Tseten can tell the story in details as he experienced it himself directly. All of this I'm telling from what I heard, basically. And Tseten says that when they arrived in Greece, the first or the second day, right away, they took Rinpoche to see a young boy that had a very bad sickness and that no one could cure anymore and so on. And Rinpoche saw him, and Rinpoche said, oh, these people are for real, I arrived and the first days already taking him to the hospital to see someone. Tibetans would do things a little bit more slowly. First you arrive, then you rest, then we give you some puja, then you do something, okay, then there is someone to see. And they arrived, and the first day right away already took him to the hospital to see someone that was sick here and there. And Rinpoche was able to cure this boy. And like this was happening many things. And I met Rinpoche in 87. And I remember, and many of you who are here remember, in the first 10 years, I think, something like that, Rinpoche would show his powers and healing powers and miracle sort of things much more than after. So that time, his energy had always had very strong energy, but later Rinpoche was always manifesting more and more soft. In the beginning, he was manifesting very, very strong, like this uncommon qualities that he had, in healing and in many things. So that's when Rinpoche started coming to the West, and from that on came the whole process of going to Greece, then coming to Italy. Coming to Italy was our friend Giuse Gardenghi, that she was sick. She had metastasis in her liver, and the doctors had given her 2 months of lifetime. So she went to see Geshe Jampa Gyatso in Pomaya at the time. Geshe Jampa Gyatso had just arrived in Pomaya. And Geshe Jampa Gyatso was a very important master later in Italy. So she went to see him because she tried everything for her sickness. She went to United States to see doctors, everything, and there was nothing else to do. So she said, look, who knows, a Tibetan Lama can do something, no? So she went, and when she saw Geshe Jampa Gyatso said to her, if there is one person that can help you, is Lama Gangchen, and he's now in Greece. So she said, okay, she left to Greece. She arrived in Greece that she was very, very weak. She had difficulty to walk. And then she said that Rinpoche was very kind and very joyful. No? So Rinpoche said to her, oh, you do this mantra? Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Soha. You take this white and the red pill. And she was there just to get in Rinpoche's presence, doing puja, and just enjoying his presence together. And after a few days there, she forgot that she was sick, and when she saw, she was dancing around and full of energy, and she felt perfectly healthy. No? Then she was the one that invited Rinpoche to come to Italy because she saw so much benefit. And okay, so she was living in Bologna, and then she was the one that invited Rinpoche to come originally to Italy and stay in her house and so on. So Rinpoche in the very beginning, he was always taking care of people as his patients. He had a very clear commitment that he made 2 commitments. One commitment is when he came to the West, he made a commitment that he said, I will show the world the power of Dharma. Not only philosophy, I will show the power of our lineage. I will show the power of Dharma. And then he committed himself to dedicate in the West 10 years to take care of the body, 10 years dedicated to the speech, teaching, and 10 years to the mind, meditating. So the first 10 years ended in around 92, more or less. And these were the time where Rinpoche was mainly seeing patients, and he was seeing people and making healing and almost not so much teaching. There are many people here, maybe then can tell many stories about all that period, you know. I was in the beginning very small, living in Brazil, then later I went to India. And then Rinpoche started to teach after, around 92. That's when he started to teach more. When he began with self-healing in 92, 93, and so on. And then after 10 years, where Rinpoche taught a lot, then he dedicated other 10 years to the mind, which was mainly making retreats together, making practice together, and so on. No? Then once Rinpoche told me, he said, actually my 30 years of commitment to the West have finished, but because I have seen very suitable vessels for the Dharma in the West, and people have been so kind to me, I will continue to dedicate my life here. No? So that's what he did until his last day. No? So, I think that when we see how Rinpoche came to the West, like how all the conditions were coming and how he arrived, and all this time always connecting first to the human qualities. I think this is something that have touched all of us, you know. One of the most incredible qualities of Rinpoche that I have not seen in anyone else, lamas or not lamas, it was the ability to create an intimate friendship almost with anyone. That's why sometimes we used to joke and say, Rinpoche, you know, the 1,500 intimate friends. Because even like when Rinpoche was just after this moment sick, and when he passed away, I had a difficult task, which was to talk to people and tell people what was happening. And it's not that like, okay, you have the 10 intimate friends and then you have the rest. No, like everyone is intimate friend, you know. So I needed to do something that was like for everyone in the same way, because everyone is intimate friend everywhere, you know. And everyone felt so near to Rinpoche, all of us, you know. And this is something I've never seen anyone else. And Rinpoche always connect to very, very pure human qualities of friendship, of trust. Like Rinpoche showed very clear to us, whenever he would give his friendship to someone, it was forever. It doesn't matter what the other person would do. He said, my friendship is forever. What you do, it's your problem, not mine. You know, and we have seen people that were his friends, that at a certain point someone maybe changed idea and got angry on Rinpoche, and he was always exactly the same, and the person would come after many years, and Rinpoche would look at them and smile as he always did before. I never saw any change in that, you know. So, on many levels, no, Rinpoche has been with so great compassion and care, truly dedicating for each one of us. And fulfilling his commitments very clearly. And for me, it's beautiful to see this first part of Rinpoche's life, because Rinpoche didn't go through an easy life. In the sense that in Tibet, based on what we said before, was not very easy, his life. Later in India, for example, the time that he was in Varanasi studying, Rinpoche had a lot of headache with heat. He had a lot of issue when it was a very hot place. He used to get very strong headaches. Where he was living? Varanasi, which is 49, 50 degrees in the summer. Rinpoche, when he was in Varanasi, he would used to take the room where he was. He would close around the door, fill up with water, and turn on the fence. So like sort of natural air conditioning. And then when he would go out, also in the summertime, sometimes he would be able to make a bag full of ice, and he would make a sort, put in the head as a hat, and keep the ices on the head to make it cool. Or when he would take the local taxis, which was the rickshaw, he would put together a bucket of water, and then he would put a piece of cloth in the water, and then he would open like this, making air conditioning, like as the wind would pass through. And he would do all these sorts of things. And Rinpoche had a lot of issues with headache and so on. And when he was there, he was living in the Sanskrit university and going to see his guru in the Buddhist university, which was not so nearby. And the money that Rinpoche would receive every day as a refugee to study was enough or to eat 2 times a day, 2 meals a day, or to eat 1 meal and go to see his teacher to pay the bus. So he had to choose, or I eat or I go to see my guru. And he always chose to go to see his guru. So for many years, Rinpoche said that he would go to sleep hungry. This had been very, very common for a long time, you know. And during that time, and then I will conclude and I will open for other people. Sorry, I was a little bit too long. But during that time, Rinpoche said that he went to Trijang Rinpoche. And then he complained a little bit to Trijang Rinpoche, saying, "Oh, Rinpoche, you know, I think there was a mistake," he said to Trijang Rinpoche. He said, I'm sorry, I don't want to doubt you, but I think I am not the reincarnation of Kachin Sapenla. You know, if I was to be the reincarnation of such a great master, why am I not in a pure land enjoying myself? Instead, I am here going through so much difficulty. I cannot even eat well enough. No, I don't have a comfortable place to sleep. I have a life that's not clear my future. I am in a very difficult situation where all the references, not all, but many of the references were gone. It was a really difficult moment in many levels, you know. And then Trijang Rinpoche said to Rinpoche at the time, he said, I have no doubt at all that you are the reincarnation of Kachin Sapenla. But when anyone dies and is reborn, the qualities from one life to the other are brought within the very subtle mind in the form of imprints, like seeds. And the difference between a tulku and an ordinary person is that the tulku have very special imprints. But there is a moment in the life of a tulku, if the conditions have not yet been correct, these seeds do not ripen. And when these seeds do not ripen, a tulku may look like just any other ordinary person. No? And he looked to Rinpoche and he said, "You don't worry, I am sure you have these seeds there and they will ripen in the right time." And then later, we are very lucky that they have ripened completely. So that's why even when Rinpoche taught self-healing, he said, this is a terma, which is a hidden treasure from Trubu Lotsawa, which was one of Rinpoche's previous lives. Which means, and even one of Rinpoche's friends was Geshe Champa Tekchuk, who was one of my gurus later. And he was one of the most well-learned geshes in India. He was the abbot of Seraje Monastery for many, many, many years. Like a very important master. And he was a good friend of Rinpoche's teacher in Tibet. So later in India, he was a teacher in Varanasi University, where Rinpoche went to go to see Son Rinpoche. So when I was in India, I had a very close relation to Geshe Champa Tekchuk. And I would go to see him and to talk to him. It was strange because I was a very small kid. And I would have a very strong connection to him. And we will stay there quite some time talking and eating together. He would cook terrible food, but I would stay there enjoying very much his presence. And he told me once, he said, I have been with Rinpoche a lot, with Lama Gangchen. And he said, I have followed Rinpoche's life since he was very young. I knew him in Tibet, in Sera Monastery. I have been with him, seeing what he was doing later in India. And I tell you, Rinpoche did never study so much. But in the time we were together in Varanasi, we stayed many late evenings and nights talking about Dharma. And whenever we would touch any little deeper subject about Dharma, Rinpoche had such clear understanding. And he knew so many things that I have no other explanation than saying that he has all this knowledge from previous lives. I have no explanation where he could have this knowledge from. And Rinpoche confirmed this to me when I told him this. Because normally we say that any one of us, we have different types of qualities, which in Tibetan are called yönten. We have Kyetop Gyönten, Jangtop Gyönten, Nyöntop Gyönten, and Rigyo Gyönten. So we have Kyetop Gyönten, which is the qualities that come from birth, which is the qualities that we bring from previous lives. Rigyo Gyönten is the qualities from our family, like DNA. Okay, so there are qualities that we bring from our family itself, family lineage. Then there are qualities that we bring from learning and studying, and qualities that we develop from experience. And Rinpoche said many times to me, he said, I have more qualities that I brought from other lives than what I have learned in this, And this is something very, very special in many levels. So we are all very fortunate that we could meet Rinpoche, many of us directly, some of us indirectly. And indirectly, I mean some of us have not met Rinpoche directly, but through his teachings and through Lama Caroline or me or other friends, we have been able to meet Rinpoche also, and we still can do that in a way. And to be guided by, as Geshe Champa Tekchuk once said to me, he said, Rinpoche for me is the last of the Mahasiddhas. That's what Geshe Champa Tekchuk said to me once. Rinpoche is like a modern time Mahasiddha and the last one. I don't know, maybe you have seen in anywhere written Drubwang Kanchen Rinpoche. And someone may be asking, what Drubwang means. Drubwang is in Tibetan Drupe Wangchuk, which means the one that holds the power of realizations, which is Mahasiddha. It's the name for Mahasiddha, is someone that have full realizations. There is, for example, there are many ways how you call great lamas, like Kedrup, Kewang, like the great knowledgeable, the wise, and so on. And Rinpoche was being called from all the great masters as the Mahasiddha Kanchen Rinpoche. Which Mahasiddha is someone that has very high spiritual realizations and manifests them in daily life, in every aspect, and often in an unconventional manifestation also. No? So I think we have had this incredible opportunity, I remember for me personally, I am not a very mystical person myself. So my memories with Rinpoche has always been very down to earth. And I have learned so much. But what I remember very clearly the first time I met Rinpoche was that I simply felt comfortable. I felt like I am in the right place. And I can trust. And everything is right. That's how it is. And I fell in love with Rinpoche the first very right moment. And I had total trust. Since the first time I saw him, I never had 1 second of doubt or judgment in my mind. No? And then from that was this beautiful, relationship that developed up to now, and we continue still. No? So I wanted just to give some sort of introduction to the past to come to these days where we are. It went much longer than what I wanted actually originally, but just to bring a little bit to us. And one important thing also is that Rinpoche was not only in Italy, he had people following him and wanting him everywhere around the world. In Tibet, there were hundreds of thousands of people wanting Rinpoche to be there. There was everywhere around Europe, in Brazil, in Nepal, in India, everywhere, in China. And Rinpoche, due to our great fortune, finally he chose to stay with us here, And so I think it's our duty to move on with all the activities and everything else in the best of our own capacities, no? But I think we are doing beautifully. So I'm actually happy to be here with everyone, and I feel that sure there can be, and there is natural that we have sadness, but I think, as I said in the first day, we are united not by sorrow but by gratitude and joy at the same time, and I think this is something very important. So to remember our stories, because every moment that we had with Rinpoche, we had something to learn. It is said in many sutras and teachings that when we are with a Buddha, every word he says is Dharma, every action he does is Dharma, every interaction that we get with him is Dharma, which means every interaction is bringing us to enlightenment. And with Rinpoche, I think we all have experienced that in a very beautiful and clear way. Like when Rinpoche, he could be saying the most simple things of daily life. It always had a meaning. It was always touching somewhere and always caring for the well-being of each and every one of us. So I think all the stories that we remember, sure, when we tell a story, is not what happened, but what we remember of what happened. Because if we look at the same story, it's very much possible that I will remember in one way, you will remember in another, and another person will remember in another way. Because what we remember is what we have experienced. It's not what have happened independently of our own experience. So it's very beautiful at the same time and very important to remember and to tell our memories, because if we are able to open our mind, we will see that we have so much to learn at every experience that we have had, in many, many ways. So, based on that, I like us to take not only today, but in the future days also, for us to share our memories, to share our experiences in the way to keep memories alive, to cultivate our gratitude, our faith, our connection, which is always there, but it's very important. To rejoice, I think this is something very, very important for all of us at the same time also. Okay? Then, on another moment, I would like to explain a little bit, because I have been requested to explain a little bit about how the reincarnation system works and what are we supposed to do here and there, because we are also already starting to have a few metropolitan legends around. I don't know where and how I come to listen to things like, oh, I heard that Rinpoche is going to be reborn within an 8 kilometers range, and that he's going to go to school in Ban, that he's not going to go to the monastery and here and there. And I said, wait, where is this coming from, So I think it's important at some point to explain a little bit how things will be. Right now there is no any hurry. Rinpoche said to me very clear, we need to have at least 1 year time to digest this moment. So he created that since the beginning for us to have this 1 year time to go through and to digest and to prepare ourselves in many different levels. So one of these next days I will explain, and I will explain a little bit how this process will be, even though there is not so much to say right now. But we'll talk about that another moment. Okay? So I would like to request Lama Caroline, if you like to
sure.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, of course.
And then after we open for the
Okay.
people.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lama Michel. That was really very interesting, yeah? And now we have all the people transcribing. So actually what Lama Michel said was very, very interesting, yeah? So please can somebody transcribe it, yeah? Because, I don't know if you know, since many years we have a book called The Many-Sided Crystal, which is a kind of biography. It's a biography of Rinpoche that passed through many of Rinpoche's lives, actually. Yeah? And the part of Kachin Sapanla and the beginning of Rinpoche's life, of course, there's something, but Lama Michel says some interesting things that's not there. So if somebody could kindly transcribe that and then send it to me, and then I'll add it to the book. It's really some very interesting things. So thank you, yeah? Okay. So anyway, so hello everybody. So anyway, so I've been away from Albagnano for a couple of weeks. Why? Because Rinpoche sent me here. It's true, yeah? And it's true, really. In February, yeah? Just after Losa, when we were, Lama Michel, me and some other people, we were in Borobudur together, yeah? And we just come back here to Albagnano, yeah? And it was after Losa, no? And one day I was in Rinpoche house in the Labrang, and Rinpoche said to Toot and Anouk, yeah, he said, oh, after June the 18th, Lama Caroline needs to go to Holland, okay? So then, then happened everything, and I completely forgot about that, many things happen, as we know. Like, I was really not thinking about this, going to Holland, yeah? But then, on June the 18th, Anouk and Luce, who's here, they turned up in a car, yeah? And they said, Rinpoche said, you have to come to Holland. So they drove 12 hours, very far, yeah, and pick me up, yeah, pick up me and Eleanor, and they took me to Holland. And I was like, oh, great, yeah, because also I'd been trying actually to visit Spain for some time, but it was really impossible. But then we discovered we could fly through Amsterdam, yeah. So Rinpoche, miraculously, of course, is still organising things, post-mortem, yeah, of course, He's still, this I truly believe, actually, that Rinpoche is still organising. Rinpoche was always, I manage, no? And I think he's also still, somehow, left a lot of things, in place that still, so. So anyway, so I was in Holland, and it was super nice. I went to Manibadra, so beautiful Gompa, yeah? If any of you have time, yeah, you should go. It's such a beautiful place, incredible, very nice feeling. Rinpoche, I went there many times, yeah. And also, maybe you saw Mr. Yan gave a very nice interview, very interesting about his experience with Rinpoche, yeah. Actually, I'd also like to interview Toot, actually, when it's possible, yeah, okay. Then after that, finally got back to Spain, yes. Go to Spain for a little bit, and I went to Malaga and Almeria Center in Torno de Paz, very important, beautiful place, yeah. And also to our new retreat center, Seringjong in the mountains, yeah. And I'd just like to say I was very impressed, actually, with everybody, because of course I've been here all this time, during the lockdown in Albagnano, yeah. But I saw, in my opinion, that Rinpoche is also carrying everybody emotionally, like all our disciples, all our friends around the world, And I saw everybody very well, like Rinpoche's, I think here too, but I see everywhere, and I've been in Holland, I see Spain, everybody still, supported by that energy. So I think everything basically is okay, Also, they told me their experiences, very nice, So here in Albagnano, we're seeing all kinds of incredible things, when Rinpoche passed into the clear light. also there, no? Yeah. This, my Dutch friends, they show me all kinds of beautiful rainbows, incredible ones from the Netherlands. And also in Almeria, they show me many photos of, like, when Rinpoche passed away, incredible rainbows around the Rinpoche Labrang, yeah, many, 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 yeah, with no rain, yeah. Yeah, which we also saw some other times when we were there with Rinpoche, yeah, okay. And just the other day, I was in the retreat centre, and one of the, Manu, one of the sponsors of our retreat centre, he told me very nice, you know. He said also he, on the 49th day after Rinpoche passed into the clear light, he said he was sat on the beach and also, woof, appeared one huge rainbow across the beach, you know. So each one that, you know, they also got, you know. It's like we're all one spiritual family, you know. Because like Lama Michel was saying, you know, of course we're here in Italy, in Albagnano, and yes, it's true, this is Rinpoche's main centre. But Rinpoche made an incredible job everywhere else around the world, you know, by the way, you know. In Holland, in Spain, in Brazil, in Chile, in Argentina, so many places, yeah, in Nepal. Now, this is like one huge spiritual family, yeah. So anyway, I've just been to visit there, check everything okay, yeah. And now I'm back here again for the summer, yeah. Thanks to Rinpoche, yeah, who organised that, yeah. I was actually so really incredibly surprised when Los and Anouk turned up in the car, yeah. So you like kind of, yeah, no, incredible, no. Anyway, so let's. I'd just like to add a few things about what Lama Michel was saying about Kachin Sapan Labs. Actually, he said very well, very nicely, the story, what we know. But I'd just like to add a few things that I remembered while Lama Michel's talking, yeah, okay? So, first thing is, yeah, okay, we're not just telling these stories to pass the time or because we don't have anything better to do or anything like this. Because actually this is completely the right thing to do, yeah? When the historical Buddha Shakyamuni passed away, his disciples also did the same thing, yeah? Except they have a fancy name for it called the First Council of Buddhism, yeah? Okay? Yeah? But they all did the same, like his close disciples, they met together and they start to share the stories and the teachings of their master, Buddha Shakyamuni. Why? Because they didn't want to lose anything. They want to keep the feeling, the ideas, the histories, yeah? So then they start to sit together, yeah? And actually, at that point, what they did actually is they it was very simple in those days, yeah, not like very fancy like nowadays, no. But they took off their upper robe, no, and they just piled them up in a pile. And the person that told the story, their memory of the Buddha, they would sit on this like pile of upper robes, yeah. And this is actually the origin of actually how later became like the thrones, no. Because they wanted to give, show respect to the holy words and memories of their teacher, the Buddha, yeah, okay? And so, anyway, so then it became, they actually have very good memory, these, you know, the early Buddhists, yeah, not like us, yeah? Fortunately, we have streaming, we have all kinds of recording methods. They had their own memories, very good in those days, yeah? So all their memories and their histories and their songs and everything they passed down as an oral tradition, yeah, okay, for several hundred years, yeah. So anyway, so we're doing the same kind of thing, yeah. It's important, this sharing of, you know. And Rinpoche, Lama Gangchen, he always said, yeah, many times, he said, I want to make a wisdom planetarium, yeah, yeah, it's true, no? And then he had various ideas about the top of the temple and all kinds of ideas about this wisdom planetarium, yeah. But, in my opinion, I think the Wisdom Planetarium is our Sangha, yeah, okay? Like, all around us now, it's like... Rinpoche was like a sun, it was like a supernova, wasn't it, yeah, okay? So powerful, so full of light, you know, incredible, yeah, yeah? And I think... I mean, and when Rinpoche passed away, I don't know, to me it's kind of like his light was spread into each and every one of the Sangha, you know? And so it's like all of us, is like one star. This is what Rinpoche used to say, yeah? Okay? And it's true now because at the moment, as it says in all those swift return prayers, at this moment temporarily the sun of our Guru is set, which is a natural event, no? But then again will rise, no? Isn't it soon, yeah? But because the sun is set, now we can see the stars, yeah? Because we were all so totally fixated by the wonder of Rinpoche that honestly, we were not looking so much at each other, were we? Yeah, yeah, because we were looking at some things a bit more interesting, no? Yeah, okay. But now it's okay. But now it's true. And also I start to, honestly, I took refuge in the Sangha before, but now more, yeah? So now I start to appreciate each and every one more and more, and I see each one's special qualities, yeah? Which is why, we have this idea to ask people to share their stories, and I like people, like doing these NgalSo interviews. I mean, not everybody, but bit by bit, yeah? Because it's so important, yeah? That each star or each planet of the NgalSo planet, Wisdom Planetarium, we see a little bit who they are and their experience, That's what we're doing at the moment, yeah? So very important, actually. Let me put on my glasses. So, Lama Michel was saying that Rinpoche had some difficulties, in his life, yeah? But actually, that's completely normal for high lamas, yeah? Because, like, for example, in the astrology, yeah? In the Indian astrology, if you analyze the map of great saints, great lamas, great gurus, yeah? Actually, there's not a single one of them who doesn't have a difficult map, yeah? Okay? Because it's somehow, if you have like a super nice, easy map, it means you're not going to be a great guru, basically, yeah? 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 And so that's completely in keeping with the Indian idea that all great yogis and siddhas and masters, they transform, by their own experience, they grow and become that great spiritual light, yeah? I mean, Rinpoche had something in his map called the Kala Sap, yeah, the snake of time, yeah, okay? Which, in Rinpoche's case, he could use in the positive way, because this thing can be either very negative or very positive, yeah, okay? But in his case, it meant all the negative he could transform into the positive. So it meant he was bound to experience many difficulties in his life, which he did, no? But always Rinpoche overcame, didn't he, yeah? We saw many, many times, yeah, all kinds of incredible things that we don't need to go into now, yeah? And each time he always said impossible, possible, and every situation he put finally in the positive way. We saw, 30, 40, 50 times like this in the course of knowing Rinpoche, yeah? So anyway, so that's completely normal, yeah? Rinpoche's past life. I just want to add a little bit to what Lama Michel said, yeah? So Kachin Sapanla, he was this Rinpoche's past life, and he was the Lama of Gangchen Monastery, yeah? But before that, he was a yogi, okay? And many of you went to Tibet, okay? Yeah? So in Gangchen, yeah? Okay? It's Gangchen Monastery, like very isolated place, some on the... towards the Nepal side of Shigatse, no? Yeah? Yeah? What's that? The west side, no? Out into the desert, yeah? And behind is like some hills, some mountains, okay? And up in those mountains, there were some yogis living there, okay? In those kind of very difficult to reach hills behind, yeah? So there were 3 yogis called the 3 Vajra brothers, yeah? One was living in a place called Shelka, which is the crystal cave related, I think, to Pamasambhava, no? Lama Michel, no? Yeah? Yeah? Anyway, there was 3 of them, yeah? Okay, Rinpoche in his past life as Kachin Sapanla was one of these yogis, okay? The other yogi was Tomogeshi Rinpoche, but obviously not the present one, the one 2 lifetimes before, okay? 3 lifetimes before, yeah, anyway. And then there was another one whose name I've forgotten, but I'll tell you tomorrow, yeah? But there were these 3 great yogis, and they lived in 3 caves, but not so near, yeah, okay? And Rinpoche always used to say that, like nowadays, like all the time, we're totally obsessed with our phones, aren't we? Like every 2 minutes we need to look at our WhatsApp and our Instagram and all this and send messages to all our friends, yeah? So in those days was a little bit different, yeah? So they had a messaging system, but their messaging system was Yeti, yeah? Okay? So what they used to do, yeah? And Rinpoche told me this story at least 10 times, and he assured me that this was true, okay? That what they used to do is they had a cave, and outside of their cave door, yeah, okay, it's not like a Flintstone cave, okay, maybe it's like has a door, and you've been in the Himalayas, right, yeah? Tibetan meditation cave, they have like a door and an altar, actually, some of them are really nice, actually, yeah, okay? So they had their little, let's say, meditation hut up in the mountains, yeah? And outside they had some place where they can put a fire, yeah, okay, for cooking and stuff. So then they would light the fire, yeah? And what they would do is, sometimes the Yeti, which is a kind of divine animal, it's called in Buddhism, okay? It's not exactly like a gorilla, it's some kind of being of the Himalayas, okay? Yeah, and they would come like near in the shadows, yeah, okay? But not so close, and then they would write one letter to the other two yogis, and they would put like on the edge of the light of the fire, and the yeti would pick it up, yeah? And then it would take to the other yogi, yeah? So this was their postal service, yeah, okay? And Rinpoche, Lama Michel says he's not mystical and all this, but I don't know. I'm not mystical either, but I believe all this stuff after so many years with Rinpoche, because I saw so many incredible things. It's like, yeah, me personally, I haven't actually seen a yeti, I have to confess. But I've seen a lot of other things, so it's like, yeah, whatever, there's many other experiences and, why not? There's many kinds of beings, yes, sure. Huh? I remember, I think Sharon told me that Rinpoche said to her once that now the yeti is very, very difficult to see because it's not pure enough, okay? And let me think I'll have to ask Sharon, but once he was in a place, I think, and he said this is the one place where it was still in Tibet where it's still possible to see them, yeah? Anyway, I'll ask Sharon and I'll tell you tomorrow where it was, yeah, if you're interested, yeah, okay? So anyway, Kachin Sapanla was a yogi, yeah, he was meditating, yeah? And he only became the abbot of the Kanshin monastery under duress, yeah, because actually he was quite happy, staying in his cave. However, many people, they started going up to the cave and they started like requesting him, please help us and so on, yeah. So then he started coming down to the monastery, okay, yeah. And as Lama Michel says, he used to sit in the kitchen, yeah, of the monastery, yeah. He would just sit on the doorstep of the kitchen and, and he would spend his time like doing puja, doing divination and making like sasa, yeah, okay? Like we have here our sasa workshop now in Albagnano, yeah? With Martha and Enrico, no? They make all these beautiful sasas, yeah? So he used to make them with like mud and things, but he had some like very special pill, yeah, healing pill, and he used to do it in like a very rough way, like, kind of like this, yeah? Just, like, so he would give like these bits of clay mixed with his healing pills to people, which were very powerful healing substances, yeah? And so he used to sit in the corner of the kitchen, on the veranda of the kitchen mainly, yeah, doing this kind of thing, and many, many people would come for advice and healing, yeah? So he was so there's three yogis. One is Kachin Sapanla, the other is Tomo Geshe Rinpoche. Also, he's been here to Albagnano, the new reincarnation. Yeah, great, powerful master. Yeah, and we as a community really need to continue our connection with him. Very important. Yeah, okay, for our spiritual community in many different ways. Yeah, yeah.
Just one thing, that Tomo Geshe Rinpoche reincarnation. Mm-hmm. He wrote a swift return prayer for Rinpoche.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
Also, that we have actually many still translations to do, but it's coming. Just till this connection is always there. No?
Yeah. Okay. Tomo Geshe Rinpoche, since many, many, many lifetimes, has a connection together with Rinpoche. That's why they're called Vajra brothers. It means unbreakable. Yeah. Okay. Brotherhood. Yeah. Okay. And there's this book, The Way of the White Clouds, written by this Lama Anagarika Govinda, this German guy who went to Tibet, yeah? Okay, and he speaks about his experiences with Tomo Geshe Rinpoche. And actually, if you read that book, and you read it carefully, it also talks about Kachin Sapanla as well, yeah? Okay, and it talks about when they went on pilgrimage to India together, to Bodh Gaya, yeah? So maybe you might find that interesting to read that book. I found, anyway, that was one of the first books I ever read on Tibetan Buddhism. And I was so fascinated. And I always thought, oh, what a shame that I missed it all, It was, all these miracles and all this kind of incredible stuff. But fortunately, by some good karma, I managed to meet Rinpoche. I thought that was really incredible, Okay, the third yogi, whose name I'll tell you tomorrow, because I haven't got my computer or anything, yeah? The third yogi, he was a lay person, okay? He was a yogi when he had a wife, a consort, okay? And they were living in a cave together, yeah? But then she got ill and she died, yeah? Okay, and they'd had like a little baby, okay? So this third Vajra brother, what did he do, yeah? Remember, they didn't have supermarkets or Nestle baby milk or anything in those days. So what he did is he started to feed the baby himself, yeah? Yeah, this is what Rinpoche told me. He said, okay. He said it was an emergency situation up a mountain, so then he started to produce milk himself, yeah, okay? And he feed the baby from his own nipple, yeah, okay? Until it was big enough to take solid food, yeah, okay? Anyway, so I'll remember his name tomorrow, okay? So anyway, there's 3 of them, yeah, okay? Lama Michel said that Kachin Sapanla, he had this thing of sitting on the door and people would go and visit him, yeah, okay? And they would say, oh, you know, I want to see Kachin Sapanla, I'd say over there, and then he'd come round and meet them, yeah? So, personally, I had exactly the same experience with Tomo Geshe Rinpoche, with his lasting... It must be a thing with them, you know? Because one time Gangchen Rinpoche sent me to America, yeah? I was to meet Tomo Geshe Rinpoche in Ganam, in his place, yeah? So I went there, okay? Like, it's a beautiful place, yeah? And I got there, knocked on the door, yeah? And there was this... I said, oh, I've come to see Tomo Geshe Rinpoche, and there was this Tibetan man, okay, and he was dressed in, like, Levi's, you know, Levi jeans, Levi shirt, cowboy boots, and a cowboy hat, yeah, okay? And I said, please, I'd like to see Tomo Geshe Rinpoche. I said, yes, yes, and I said, I'm Jimmy, okay? You go through there, and Tomo Geshe Rinpoche will come. So then, of course, then he'd go around the corner and come back in his, like, you know, in his Lama dress, and I was like, oh, you know. So it must be like a thing with them, you know. Anyway, so we're very, very lucky, you know, that we have this, thanks to Rinpoche, not thanks to us, no, that he make this connection for us also with Tomo Geshe Rinpoche, yeah, with our Sangha, you know, so we need to continue with that, you know. We're also very high Lama, yeah. Okay, so Kachin Sapanla, he had a very, very special connection with Palden Lama, yeah, okay. Our Sangha, yeah, actually we have 2 main protectors. One is, of course, the World Peace Protector, yeah, and the second one actually is Palden Lama, okay. And Rinpoche, Gangchen Rinpoche, himself, his idea was that this year, he said, yeah, that we should start to do the practice every day of Palden Lama here. He was like very insistent, you know. He said that now was the time that we should do both practices, you know, World Peace Protector, which we are doing, yeah, but also Palden Lama, the 2 together, yeah, okay. So we were preparing that, yeah. And Rinpoche, since many, many lifetimes, actually had a very, very special connection with Palden Lama, not just as Kachin Sapanla, actually going back to the time of Panchen Zampo Tashi, yeah, okay, when he was the 2nd abbot of Tashi Lumpo Monastery, yeah. Okay, maybe another day we'll talk about him, yeah, okay? But in the time of Kachin Sapanla, which is Rinpoche's life before this one, yeah? As Lama Michel said, Rinpoche had this thing about democracy, yeah? And he was always trying to help the poorest people and the poor monks, yeah? So there's one story that at one time, yeah? Okay, Tibet was like this kind of feudal system, yeah? Middle Ages system, yeah? So the monasteries, they didn't like go to to Essilunga or something and get like food, yeah. The food was produced by feudal farms, yeah. Okay, like in the Middle Ages in Europe, yeah. Okay. So then the landowners, they had various workers and serfs, and they would, you know, collect all the grain and stuff like that. And then because part of the lands were owned by the monastery, yeah, they were obliged to give part of the harvest each year to the monastery to feed the monks, yeah, that's how it used to work in Tibet, okay. But the landowners, yeah, they were not really they were, let's say, a little bit corrupt, yeah, okay. So what they started to do is they were harvesting barley, okay, but then they mixed the barley with what do you say, like hay, like fieno, yeah, okay. So then it was like very, well, like impossible to eat, basically. So what they would do is they would put like lots of hay and like lots of like very cheap stuff, and they would put on top like some barley, yeah, so it looked like okay, and then they would take this to the monastery, yeah. But then the monks would starve, no, if they accept that, yeah. So then the monks went to like complain to Kachin Sapanla, yeah, okay. So Kachin Sapanla, he went in his protector room and he prayed to Palden Lama, yeah, okay. So he had very, very special connection with Palden Lama since many, many lifetimes, yeah. Palden Lama would always appear to him as like one young girl, yeah. in the time when he was Panchen Zampotashi, she always used to appear as a yak herding girl coming from the west, yeah, okay? And they have a very special statue of Paudon Lama in Gangchen Monastery that originally came from Nalanda in India, okay? At least the central part of it, the small piece, yeah? Then they make like a big, like huge clay statue on top, yeah, okay? And when they made that statue, then this girl came into the temple and she absorbed into the statue, yeah? Okay, which was Paudon Lama blessing the monastery of Gangchen, yeah? Gangchen means Gangchen Chirpo Ling, by the way. So also nowadays, this is Gangchen Chirpo Ling number 2, okay? We have Gangchen Chirpo Ling number 1 in Tibet, yeah? And we have Gangchen Chirpo Ling number 2 here. So it means also, well, it's also incredibly close to us as well, Yeah? Yes, please.
No, just one important thing, which I was thinking actually yesterday about this, which is very interesting on Rinpoche's life, is that Rinpoche had many plans directed towards the future, but things didn't really go, not the right word is not well, but they didn't go smoothly and happen until he had completed the fulfillment to the commitments of his previous lives. So, for example, he was looking for a place like Albagnano for many, many years. Albagnano was found in the moment that he started rebuilding Gangchen Monastery in Tibet. So when he fulfilled the commitments of his previous lives, that's when the future opened the doors for the things to move forward, So there is also this very strong connection between Gangchen Monastery in Tibet and here, which was, okay, Gangchen Chopiling in Tibet, you take care so you can make the new Gangchen Chopiling in Albagnano.
Okay, so the local landlords were cheating the monks, yeah, okay, and they gave this very bad food, yeah, okay, and if they ate it, they would get sick, yeah, okay, and remember, you can't go to Esilunga and get any more, yeah, okay. So what Kachin Sapanla was, he prayed to Paudon Lama very strongly to do something, yeah, because it's like, it's not fair, no, the rich people cheating the poor people, yeah. And so he prayed very strongly to Paudon Lama, and then basically for those rich families, yeah, who were controlling the food source of the monastery, everything started to go super wrong in their lives, yeah, okay? They say all the sheep were born black-coloured, and then wolves ate the sheep, and all kinds of things happened until finally they said, I think we will not do that anymore, yeah? And they start to give good food to the monastery, yeah? So from what Rinpoche said, he said Kachin Sapanla was always very much into democracy, and like Lama Michel said, always the poorest ones. He was, as we saw in this life, he was always very interested to take care of. Yeah, actually, he was interested to take care of everybody. Rich and poor. Yeah, but he was always very concerned that everybody had the right conditions that they needed to live, wasn't he? Yeah. And even also in this life, he really tried to give everything to everybody that they needed, so that they had a comfortable life for their spiritual development, yeah? Which is why he made all these incredible Dharma centers, all around the world, yeah, and communities for us, yeah? Because actually he himself didn't need them, did he? Yeah? But he did this for us, so we had very comfortable and easy conditions for us to continue our spiritual practice, So kind, yeah? Okay? Actually, Rinpoche always used to say, I will give everybody what they need, not what they want. That's exactly his words, Yeah, because we always think we need more than we need, no? Okay, so and many times when we went to Tibet with Rinpoche, there was always many special rainbows and things related to the Paudon Lama temple. A really very powerful connection, yeah. Okay, then Kachin Sapanla, yeah. Actually, if I remember rightly, when he passed away, there was many I think he was 69 years old, yeah, and also I think he had a kidney problem, from what I remember, yeah. Okay, and anyways, he got sick of a kidney problem and passed away like that. Okay, and at that time, in Tibet they have these kind of huge flagpoles, and they put these flags of the elements down the side, no? Okay, the life tree of the monastery, yeah. So at that time there was a big storm, and this broke, yeah, which was considered kind of inauspicious for Kachin Sapanla's life, yeah. And then he asked his attendants to make some special offerings to Palden Lama because he wanted to pass away. And actually, it's a bit like King Arthur, you know, and the sword. And his disciples were like, no, 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 we're not going to do it, yeah? So then several times he was insisting that they make these offerings, yeah? And then when they did it, he passed away into the clear light, yeah, okay? Yeah, then he spent, when he passed away, he spent 2 years, yeah, before he was reborn in the soul. They say that he spent 1 year in the Kyadra Dakini land, yeah, and obviously 1 year in his mother's womb, yeah, okay? Growing up in his mother's womb, yeah, okay? So it was actually 2 years from when Kachin Sapanla passed away to when Gangchen Rinpoche was reborn, yeah, in 1941, yeah? So let's have a look at my notes, yeah? No, because Then what else, yeah? Okay, so then Lama Michel was talking about Rinpoche when he was young, no? Okay, when he went to Ganshan and Tashi Lumpo and Sera monasteries, yeah? So he said very nice, many very interesting things. So just add a few things, yeah? Okay. Now, I heard one story, yeah? That Rinpoche, when he was young, he had a lot of like miracle powers, and one of the times that they beat him is because he was making flames, yeah, like making, like manifesting the illusion of fire in the monastery, just to tease all the monks, yeah, you know, so they'd be all meditating and do like flames, and everybody would do like this, no. So then his teacher started hitting him for this. So that's one story I heard, yeah. Okay, yeah.
No, Rinpoche said that when he was very young,
yeah.
he had visions of blonde people with yellow hair and light eyes and dressed in very strange ways. And in Tibet, people had never ever seen a blonde person, and it was not at all. And then his teachers simply said to him, "Shut up, don't talk about these things, you know." Then later, when he starts seeing Western, that's when he started to connect things.
Okay, then what else? Yeah. Okay, then Lama Michel was saying about how Rinpoche, you know, he memorized, like, you know, with his teacher, like orally, okay? And Rinpoche had the most incredible memory, you know? Like, for example, many times we would do puja here, no, with Rinpoche, and many lamas and Rinpoches, no? And monks and us, no? And Rinpoche knew everything. It was incredible, you know. Everybody else, all the other Lama and Rinpoche, they need a book or half a book or something. Rinpoche was like, could do it all, no book, incredible, you know. And over the years I saw many Lamas and Geshis and Tolkus and Rinpoches and everybody, and I always saw that Rinpoche was the one who had the best memory and knew everything and know everything and how to do better than everybody else, you know. And I was always incredibly impressed by that, and also by the fact that he never ever forgot anything, yeah. And you had to be super careful what you said to him, because you would say something and then 10 years later he would say, "You said." It's true. You had to be like super careful, you know, because like, no, he had a most incredible memory, you know. So whether it was from his previous lives or licking the door of Tashi Lumpo, yeah. Anyway, it definitely worked, you know, what he was doing. Really incredible, you know. Really incredible, like, wisdom, yeah. Okay. So that's one thing. Then, okay, Lama Michel was saying that Rinpoche, when he was young, you have this vision, no, of this place in the future with like the lake and the 5 mountains, yeah, okay? And first he thought it was in that Lama camp, yeah, Lama camp number 2, yeah, okay. I also remember going there. Now I remember one time Rinpoche told me, we went there, it was a little tiny hut, yeah, and he says, in there he'd prepare everything, yeah, and then almost as soon as he prepared it, also the whole thing set on fire, yeah, okay? And he actually burnt all the inside and the altar, you know. But then he was like, as usual, like, wonderful, you know, this is very auspicious. He used to say that, no? Every time we had a fire or something, Rinpoche always saw that for him, that was an auspicious event, you know, that his tradition would increase, yeah? So he knew he wouldn't be just staying there like a snake in a sand hut, and his tradition would grow, and in fact it grew a lot, no? But what I heard was that this thing of the lake and the 5 mountains, actually that was inspired by our protector, no? Yeah? And that... the Kalimpong oracle, I think, Rinpoche was very close to the protector, no? The protector, no? But before Rinpoche passed away, he said many things, no? But he said, I'm closer than a shadow to Rinpoche, so for us not to worry, he would take care of everything, no? But I think this was a vision of the Kalimpong oracle, actually, this thing of the lake in front and the 5 mountains behind, yeah, okay? But also the oracle, he had another vision, no, of the flying Vajra, yeah, okay? And he actually had 2 visions, no? One, it was anyway, the one relating to Rinpoche was a flying Vajra, yeah, and it was flying all over the world, and this was like many, many years before Rinpoche started flying, yeah? So it's true, Rinpoche was always looking for this place with the lake in front and the mountain behind, yeah? And then when he come here, he recognized the place, no? In the early 1999, no? When he come here, then he said, "This is it. This is the place I've been looking for all my life." Yeah. Okay. And then what else? Hang on. Excuse me. Oh yes. And then Lama Michel, you were saying that when Rinpoche, when he was a kid, no, he had a lot of energy, no? Now, another story that I remember Rinpoche said is that when he was young, no, okay, he was always like, you can imagine, no, like Rinpoche, no, but mini Rinpoche, no. So he was always like, "I'm the best," you know, like this, yeah. And then one time he said, I don't know exactly in what context, but he said he was going to fight all the other children. I don't know, in the monastery, yeah.
No, it was not. He went for a holiday in his hometown, and Tibetan kids were quite rough at the time. It was normal, you know, to do like sort of wrestling and fighting, and they would do these things. But Rinpoche, when young, also when old, he had a very strong body. Like even when he was in labor camp, he could do the work of 4 people, like raise up stones and do things that normally would take 4 people to do. You know? So when he was very young, he was, at that time I think around 11 or 12 or something like that, and they were like all the cousins together. And suddenly he said, "Okay, now they were like fighting, but like for game, for playing." And he said, "Now I'd do against everyone." But that's when actually they all jumped on him finally and broke his leg.
No? Broke his ankle, no, like just above the ankle, and he had like some marks on his leg where they did like moksha, yeah, because that to set the bone, yeah, because I mean they didn't have a hospital, no, so if you broke your leg, you just had 2 sticks and some moksha, and you know that was it, no. So anyway, he always had like these scars on above his ankle. I think it was his left ankle, no? Yeah. That's why he always had a little bit difficulty, no? Since he was young with walking, yeah, from that, yeah. Okay, then what else did you say, Lama Michel? Okay, so you were saying about the self-healing being a terma from Rinpoche's other life, Tropu Lutsawa. So actually, Rinpoche is like, you know, Mahasiddha, and he has the many, many past lives, okay? So, over the years, I asked Rinpoche many questions, yeah, and wrote down what he said about his other lives. So we have a kind of biography going back through, I don't know how many lives actually, 13, 14, 15 previous incarnations of Rinpoche's mental continuum, okay? Maybe sometime we get it out and we'll talk a little bit if you're interested, yeah? But anyway, what I always found interesting was how it relates to Rinpoche as he was now, yeah, okay? So, in the 11th century, Rinpoche was somebody called Tropu Lutsawa, yeah, okay? And he was a great I was saying these days, and I was talking about self-healing 1, yeah? And I was saying that, you know, with the Lojong teachings, they always talk about leprosy, yeah? Okay, and that Lojong practice came out publicly because it was the cure for lepers, yeah? And then actually Rinpoche in that life was one of the lepers, yeah? Because he was this person called Jampa Pel, okay? And then he got leprosy, yeah? And then he was kind of rejected from society, yeah? So he decided to spend his time meditating, yeah? So meditate on Chenrezi, on Manipami Hum and Lojong, yeah? And after 3 years, he cured himself of leprosy, yeah? And then at the age of, I think, 24, he emerged from his meditation place, yeah? Cured of leprosy. And then he went on to study Tibetan and Sanskrit, yeah, and became a great translator, yeah, and he worked with 3 great Indian yogis and was very, very influential in bringing Buddhism to Tibet in the 11th century, okay, yeah. So he produced like 200 different books on sadhanas, yeah, together with somebody called Mitra Yogi, incredible, great, important, super power yogi. If you like, we can talk about him sometime, yeah? Incredible being, yeah? Who's also still very influential in our spiritual tradition, yeah? Okay? Yeah? Like when we were doing the Vajravali, we produced a series of like block prints, which were the Sakali, the images of Mitra Yogin, yeah? Okay? And actually, what Rinpoche, he had the plan, yeah, by the way, Lama Michel, that we should also do the Mitra Yogi cycle of initiation, yeah, Mitra Gyatso. Maybe now a little delayed for future Rinpoche, I don't know, but anyway, yeah, that was Rinpoche wished us to do that here in Albagnano, yeah, in Gangchen Rinpoche here, yeah. So anyway, so in the 1992 or something, 93, when we were doing self-healing, yeah, when Rinpoche had the vision of, you know, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas in Borobudur, and then he came back and he said, now I want to share this with everybody who's interested, and then I had the job of writing down what he thought, no? Okay, so when we were making self-healing, yeah? Okay, so we make all these like outlines, you know, like opening the chakras, the blessing of this, and you know, like all the titles of the NgalSo Tantric self-healing, yeah? And then we made self-healing 2 and self-healing 3, okay, yeah? And okay, we'll just write down what Rinpoche say, yeah, okay? Try to understand something, make the first book, okay, yeah? And then some years later, I was reading something called the Blue History, yeah? It's a book of Tibetan history up to the 14th century, yeah? And it's the history of all the lamas up to just about before the Gelugpas arrive, yeah? Okay, maybe the early Gelugpas, yeah? And there was the history of Trupul Lotsawa, yeah? Okay? And then it started to speak about like what kind of things that he did, his practices and things. And I was very much impressed because it was very much similar to self-healing, you know? Like everything that we do was kind of listed in this blue. Also, if you like, is available in Tibetan and English. You can have a look for yourself, yeah. And so all the things that we do, yeah. And I was like, wow, Rinpoche. And I showed Rinpoche and I said, have you ever seen this before, yeah? And he said, no, I have never read this book before, yeah. And then I was really impressed because I said, no, it's not possible, you know, because it's like every practice that I wrote down that he's doing, no. It's like it came out of his own subconscious from another life. This is what we mean by a terma, a treasure, yeah? It's like some kind of something stored, a space treasure. It's something stored in your own mental continuum. And when a certain condition arises, yeah, then it's like the memory comes back, you know? So, like, I saw that many times with Rinpoche as we were going around. It was people are always, like, really curious, you know. Okay, he's like this high incarnation, and he has all these other lives, so how is it, you know? So, at least me, what I saw, I mean, you know, what I observed, yeah, by my limited understanding was that he would have, like, flashbacks of, you know, he would go to a place and there'd be some flashback of, like, what happened, you know? You know, like when we have déjà vu, you know, we all had that in our lives, didn't we? Yeah, it's like you feel like you know somebody, yeah. But Rinpoche would have it a lot more often than us, you know, in a bigger and more powerful way, yeah. So that's why we say the self-healing is like a terma from Trupul Lotsawa, yeah, because it's somehow like already he did the work, let's say, yeah, in the 11th century. But then it says in the biography of Trupul Lotsawa, this is not for now, this is for the future. It says this in the Blue History, yeah? I'm putting it in the space for the future generations, yeah? So that means us, yeah? So we, fortunately, were the future ones who had the karma to receive those teachings, you know? So we're really, really, really lucky, yeah? And why it's like we're at the beginning, it's a very special moment, yeah? Okay, of course, there have been many great masters, but for us, Rinpoche is kinder than all the Buddhas, yeah? Okay? And not only because he put our mind towards the Dharma, but because he really had great power. He showed us it's true, yeah, okay, yeah, in all his life, yeah, and also in his death, and what will come after it. He show us that if this is true, it means all the rest of the Dharma is true, yeah. Therefore, we should practice the Dharma, yeah, okay, yeah. So we're at this very special moment of we call like a close lineage, no, yeah. So where the blessings are incredible strong. It's like, you know, the bread is just out the oven, yeah? Yeah, we always said, no, when we were with Rinpoche, when we were doing his practices, all this, all the time he's changing, no? Puza, no, za, pu, It's like he was baking, wasn't he, yeah? Cooking, yeah? And I always said to everybody, it's like, this is, we're very lucky, because he's saying a great siddha, create something, yeah? Create a spiritual tradition, yeah? So now it's like we've got this hot bread, like the best bread, so fortunate. But what we need to do now is eat it, we need to practice, yeah? So, okay, so I hope that the older members of our community, not just old in age, but old in time with Rinpoche, yeah, will also continue to come to our Gompa this summer, yeah, okay? I know that many of us, okay, we have streaming, yeah, okay, and even my sofa is also more comfortable, by the way, yeah, okay. Maybe I could also sit on my sofa and stream, but to be with the Sangha, it really has some meaning, yeah, like feeling-wise, energy-wise, yeah. So maybe we could, of course we have to give priority to our friends who've come from far away, this no doubt, yeah, okay. Yeah, who've come from other countries or from other parts of Italia, from wherever, from Spain, Germany, Holland, yeah. But maybe we could have also one little system for the older members of our community, also to get us a little slot in the Gompa sometimes, yeah? Because it's so important to be together, yeah? Because anyway, that's just my opinion. I think we really, so anybody watching this on the streaming, okay, yeah, sitting on your sofa, I know you're there, yeah, because you all tell me, yeah, so please come, please, maybe we organise with the office and we give a few slots, 3, 4, to our older members of the community, and also please you come sometimes, yeah, okay, because it really makes a difference, yeah, okay. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what I think on the subject. Okay. So I've run out of my little bit of paper. Yeah. I was just adding a few bits to what I thought Lama Michel said. You said very nice, by the way. Yeah. And I just wanted to add a few bits that I remembered. Yeah. Because it's like this now. Yeah. Then we also, we're all putting our ideas together, our stories, our experiences together. Yeah. Because then we can truly record, the true history of Rinpoche, the true history of our community, our Sangha. And then we continue like this together, yeah, okay? So maybe another of our stars of our Wisdom Planetarium could say something, yeah, okay? Now, would anybody like to say anything? Yeah? Yeah. Do you want to say something, Franco? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, Okay. Generally we're giving, of course, first we're giving preference to not the oldest in age, but the oldest and people who've known Rinpoche the longest, okay? And then gradually the ones anyway, everybody who likes will get the time to share, So do you want, Belle, would you like to say something, please, yeah?
Portuguese for the people in Brazil too? I can try.
Would you like us to translate you into English?
Okay, hello everybody. When Lama Michel, when I knew that I have this opportunity to talk today, it was like 4 days ago. And then I start thinking, what can I share? Because in some way looks like the most I have to tell already told in the YouTubers, these things, no? And I was looking at something that could touch me, more profound to come out, not just stories, but could be alive in me right now, no? And then this night, then I said, let's go what happened. And then this night I had a dream that really touched me. And doesn't matter what the dream was here, because it was quite personal, but makes me remember 3 words that I think that I learned with Rinpoche and guide the values of my life, and I believe all your life too. The 3 words are trust, openness, and simplicity. It's very difficult for me. Usually I'm not a person that likes very much to share things like openly like this, even in speaking in English, because I get very easily emotional. But I know that at this moment everyone is emotional too, because we are talking for one day to remember Rinpoche's birthday, no? And I was seeing how much these 3 words are really in all my story with Rinpoche. First, when I'm 63 now. When I was 30 years old, my birthday, one astrologer came in my house with, everybody knows this story. Anyway, I tell again. And then he came with Monica Benvenuti. Monica is there? I don't know. And Claudio Bianchi. And Monica has a very long black hair and rings with scorpions and green nails. And I was more like pink cashmere. Very not strong, no? And this energy was like, what's going on here? Because this astrologer brought Monica and Claudio and said to me, I said to them that you are the person that will bring Lama Gangchen Rinpoche to Brazil, to help them. And this touched me very quick, because this astrologer always was saying to me, you only will sit down when you find something that for you is really real. Then I said, if the astrologer is saying this to me, must be something, no? And then Monica said, I don't know what to do. Claudio said not to do. Daniel was there more like seeing what happened. And I took this task alone in this moment. I remember that this was my first, this confidence, openness, and simplicity. Because in one and a little bit more months, I organized in my mother's the mountain house, a meeting. And it was so simple. And I had people that have to trust on what I say, because I didn't know what I was inviting to. Then I phoned Claudia Prochin, and I said, I'm organizing a group with 20 people to receive one Lama. One Lama is an enlightened man. And Claudia said that she already thought someone full of lights, no, like she's artistic mind, no? And then she said, I come. Okay, then in this way I was phoning, picking up people that I think maybe could be interested. And then we organize it in this simple, very simple way. And this simplicity means make life easy going. And then since from the beginning, everything was easy. And when you said that, you said many times trust and easy too when you were talking, no, about when things are easy, is because what Rinpoche did the life before, then could be easy, no. And I think we did something right for the last life, because it was so easy. And maybe, I don't know how much people know this or not, but we prepare like these 20 people to come. And I didn't know nothing about Buddhism. I didn't know nothing what to say people, what I was preparing. I didn't know anything. So I went to look for some books that could explain me what could be. And there were not books in Portuguese. One from Anagarita Govinda, about Omani Padme Hum, very difficult book. And the others was about tantric book. And for me, all this was too complicated. I remember that I bought, and I said, no, I cannot. This is too much. This I'm going to understand after, if I need. And this is too much for me. So again, this was because in some way I trust, I have openness to this, and I did it simple. So when Rinpoche arrived the first night, I was thinking, I am just the person that is organizing this. So it's better that, I was not thinking to go to the airport to pick up Rinpoche, nothing. This is for Monica and Claudia, I'm doing for them, no? And then at night, Monica said, oh, they arrive, we are one Japanese restaurant. So I said, okay, we go. And then Fernanda was not 1 year old, and Lama Michel was 5, came with us. And when we arrived there, and I saw Rinpoche, for the first time, we burst into laughter. We started laughing, with crying from laughing. And we didn't say, hello, how are you? No, we were like this, no? And I said, oh, I had the feeling that something I took from my navel and I put in his navel. This was one image. I am also a little bit artist. I have also some images coming in my mind. And then I sat in the table and I said, I have to calm down. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I was thinking, oh, this is what people used to say, a guru. And then when I was thinking this, Rinpoche was sitting in a table like here, not near me, like here. And he turned his mind and he looked into my eyes. And I looked into him and I said, okay, this is a guru, okay. So it was really something going beyond words and everything. So then we went to Monica's house, and I have more stories like this, that how much he was touching me. And everybody was Claudio, Monica, Chipulo, me, Papai, Dani, and you, no? All the people, the very old people. Good, we are here to tell the story. And then, and we were like a little bit shame. We didn't know what to do. And then I remember that, okay, let's sit near him. No one's sitting near. I sit. Then Rinpoche started touching me, my back. And I felt so much love that I could not explain. I felt so relaxed, so trust, open and simple. Because we never talked nothing. I didn't know nothing about him. And I was there, no? And then when we were, usually Lama Michel never sleep anyone house. He was very near to us. And Lama Michel, I don't want to go home. I'm going to sleep here with Rinpoche. And in some way my mind was, he knows what is good. That's okay. He knows what is good. Okay, this was like, I would like very much if Cozy or you, Lama, and who could do it, could look the date that Rinpoche arrived in Brazil. Because I believe it's very near to the date that he died. Because I remember that we did the retreat the 1st May, that was like a holiday day, work day, and he stayed for 12 days. So 12 less 1st will be more or less there, no? So I would like very much just to tune with this. It's okay. We didn't know what to do with a lama. We didn't know what a lama means. then we said, let's show him a little bit about Brazil, no? And we have a very, very simple house near to the beach in Ilhabela, and we invite Rinpoche to go there. And during the trip again, I remember that I just laid down my head on his shoulder, and I felt the same love that I felt before. And I was so thinking, how is possible to feel so much love? I think this is all you experience too. And then this was all. 3 days after, we were in Ilhabela, seeing the beach. We didn't know what to do with a Lama. He taught us, oh, Muni Muni Mahamuni. I have this record. Lama has this registration too. We're nothing. We're just feeling. Really just feeling. And then I think the third day, something like this, Claudio Bianchi and Claudio Cipulo start to make a joke, to just make funny with me. Now you are going to have a, how say, você vai crescer o status. You are something, you're improving, no? Something like this. You are going to improve your status. Something like this. I didn't understood anything. I mean, most time I'm not the one that understanding things, because when you are open, you're not focused on one thing. You're there, no? And then I went to Rinpoche's, where he was sleeping, in very small and simple room. And he pretend, this is something that always I remember, he pretend he was organizing things in one shelf. There was nothing to be organized. Maximum one book of his, something like this, no, but it was nothing. And then, without looking at me, I mean, with his back, giving my back, I said, Rinpoche, they said you want to talk with me. And he said, yes, yes, yes. You are the person that will open his first Dharma center in the West. I said yes. If I don't feel this trust, if I don't feel this openness, if I don't see things simple in that moment, because he showed me in that so simple way, I think this will be happy in some way. Of course, in another way it will be happy. But in this way, as Lama Michel used to say, how the leaves fall on the floor, when falls is exactly the right point, no? And I was full of fear and happiness at the same time. I trust that this will be good. I knew some way that this will be good. But anyway, this openness that you don't know what comes. And then these days, I'm reflecting so much about this, that we are very similar situation, like this moment, so many, in this moment. We don't know what will happen. I'm missing my daughter so much. I'm missing Peach so much. But I'm happy to be here. Because I know we have something to do here. I know that I have some way I should be here now. My life should be here now, no? But it's the same way. It's trust, open and simplicity. So maybe one story more about this that I remember is that then he went again. He went to Brazil. I mean, we did this first retreat, and then he went back to Italy. Then he came back again. During this time, I had probably the most difficult times in my life about dealing with death and dying. This is what I discovered that I wanted to do as a job. And when he came back, he did this, the White Tara open eyes. No, the long life. The first retreat he did open eyes. And we prepared a little bit more, because if Rinpoche was coming the first time were just for 20 people, I thought maybe this time we can do something else, no? And at the end, we did 2 retreats with more than 19 people in my mother's house. If before 20 was enough, I remember the last moment that he said he was just saying, people, come, and we don't have place. People were sleeping everywhere. The house was completely full, a mess, no? And everything was okay. The first day before we were to prepare, the woman that should be cooking, she said, "Oh, if he's eat meat, I don't cook for him." Then Monica and Claudio, we went to the supermarket. We full the como é que fala, bagageiro, the trunk of the car, full of food, not thinking about menu, what we are going to cook, nothing, just full of food for 19 people. Monica was cooking, and everything was okay. It was simple. We did not have to organize more than have this openness and trust that everything will be okay. No? And it was wonderful. Monica cooked very well, and was food enough. Everything happened good. No? So, and then I decided to visit some places. I came to Italy to know what a Dharma center is, because I didn't know what it means to do a Dharma center. I never saw a house being a Dharma center. Then I came to Italy to visit. I went to Switzerland, to Rabin alone. I didn't know, I was alone. This is what Rinpoche said. In the beginning, the first 5 years, you are going to be alone. And it was true. So then I decided, okay, so in Corso Vercellina was Rinpoche. And then when I came back to São Paulo, I said, okay, now I have to open this center, no? And it was the first time I received money from my father's heritage. Then I bought this house, very simple house. And then I said, Rinpoche, I bought the house, what I do now? And he said, sometimes you need a lama, sometimes you don't need a lama. Now you need a lama. Then it was the first time that he came alone in the aeroplane. Remember, Franco? He was so proud of his that he came he was alone. The one time he traveled alone. So, and then he asked me to, I was there with the house that should be remodeling yet. And I always write things, and then I start with a list. How high is one throne? Which are the colors for the walls? And how things that I should understand, because I just saw Rapten Churling, and it was simple in some way, no? And then Rinpoche closed my book, put my book like this. It was pires, small plate, with some cake that he was taking for his tea. And he said, until now, everything you have done, you were waiting for someone approvement. So this time, you don't need more that you do a cake and you need other people saying if the cake is good or not. Whatever you do will be good. You do the way you think is good. And when I remember this, it's like a big trust, no? I remember one day, Franco, Rinpoche told you, Belle, I leave her, no? And in some way, because it was this openness and trust. So we don't have to worry so much if you are doing right, if you are doing wrong. If this, we can just be with trust and openness and together. So this is what I wanted to share.
First of all, I want to thank Lama Michel and Lama Caroline for what they are doing. I know them from when they were younger than me. Now they are two special person. Anyhow, thank you. Many crying with Bella. Bella, you let me cry a lot with this. All these remembers.
At least I didn't cry alone.
Yes. He sent me to check. Go, Gindala, go and see what they are doing in Brazil. But not to check. I want to go to Brazil first before Rinpoche, and then he sent me to Bell. We were both like that. We don't know what to say. I don't know what to ask. She don't know what I have to say. We enjoy a lot. It was a very nice retreat, and we enjoy a lot with Rinpoche. But I want to tell you something. I want to tell you two things. First, that when Rinpoche came back from the first trip in Brazil, we went to Tibet. So the number, all the people belongs to Brazil, except 2 or 3, me, Claudio, another 2 or 3. All the rest was a group from Brazil. And it was very nice because I lived a long time in Brazil, and that Rinpoche was there was something, a sign. But what I want to tell you this time is something real, maybe mystic, possible. I was looking for mystical things when I went to Rinpoche. I don't know anything about Buddhism, lamas. A certain time I thought maybe they are taking fun of me. I met Pancha Lama, all these kind of people that I don't know. But when we have been today we are studying the elements, the 5 elements, and we think something outside 5 elements. Maybe somebody knows the connection that we have with the elements outside and the elements inside. But what I want to tell you is this practice is really a healing practice. And when I've been to Tibet with Rinpoche, I saw Rinpoche transforming the elements. With me was Claudia, Prosham the first time, the second time also, and we were struck into the river, and we cannot go on with the bus to reach Lamolazzo. And in a certain moment Rinpoche said to everybody, now you go. To everybody, you go walking. But to me and Claudia said, no, you stay here. Then we stayed there. And they start to make puja. We don't know anything, so we don't know pujas of elements. Him and Champa, they start to make puja, and they transform water into a field. The Basi could go on again, and he did 2 times. On the 3rd time he said, now no more possible. On the way back was more dangerous, because was a line of trucks and bus all struck by a lot of water and mud, and there was a danger of big storm. And Rinpoche, they saw that Lama arrives, they asked him, help, please, Rinpoche is very dangerous in this valley, now is coming a storm, you can do it something. And Rinpoche said the same thing, he can get Champa, they start to make puja, he gave me a small stone, And he said, when I will tell to you, you throw the stone under the first truck. But the impression was that the water became mad and became filled. So that is a secret that the Lama has, and they know very well. And it's something that we can go deeper and don't think that it's only a simple sound. The simple sound can be something. Can be something to help the people, to help ourselves, and to help the environment. Something that time I did not understand. Maybe now I understand the meaning. I start to understand the meaning of elements. And when there was the virus, the starting, Rinpoche was talking a lot about the elements. The practice of elements is a practice to do it every day, and is very important, and can give a magic in our life, because Dharma is also a magic. It's true that what we learn, first of all, we have to put inside of our life. But there is some magician. Yesterday we have been with Lama Michel to a lake, and he said, Lama Michel, if we want to hear the magician of nature, we need to hear, to spend some times. If we don't spend times into the nature, we have the feeling with the cars and the city. That is also a feeling. But I want to put this point because it's very important. We have two teachers that they can explain much more. And that's all. That is what I want to say. Then I want to remember something. Lama Gangchen Rinpoche and Lama Gangchen, they told me, we speak in another life through the Yeti. He's our postman. Was not like that, because when we went to see Lama Gangchen Rinpoche in New York, was very funny. So everybody was excited to meet Lama Gangchen Rinpoche. We prepared, we came out from the house, we reached 1 kilometer from the house of Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, and we lost. We're going around. We phone, we cannot find this house, and we find 3 minutes before the end of the appointment. Then we reach there, and Lama Gangchen Rinpoche has this history that was very fixed. With we arrived 3 minutes, he gave to us 1 minute, and to Rinpoche 2 minutes. Then he sent everybody away. Rinpoche did not do it anything. We were with Rinpoche. For Rinpoche there is no time, no space. You can jump on his body even in the night. When we were in Marco Polo, everybody was ringing in the night, and the people has to open, and this, that. So I want to tell you something like that. I don't have so much more to tell, or at least I have so many things to tell, but like I told you, I'm writing a book, so Jindala will be the name of the book, but was the most beautiful adventure of my life. And now that there is no more, I feel strongest the wish to continue. Because I asked to myself, now Rinpoche no exists anymore. What I'm doing? My wish was to know Rinpoche, not the Dharma, Dalai Lama. No. Dharma, yes, not the Dalai Lama, the structures, all of this kind of thing. But then I asked to myself that what Rinpoche did is so important that we need to take care, we need to continue the job, and personally I feel stronger. I thought what I lost is the friend. I lost his smell, I lost to see him, to talk stupid things with him or important things. But the rest I did not lose. Everything is inside. He gave me so many teaching that if I can realize one is more than enough. And so, yes, I was talking with him. He said, how many teachings to reach the light? He told me, everybody in the Indian, you need to learn one, self-healing number 1. Well, you reach the enlightenment. And then what I want to say that I feel stronger. I want to put my job in the hands of our lamas and to serve there like I did with Rinpoche, because that was a very important things that I did in my life, not only for me, also for my family. And so I thank everybody, and I hope that will be better and better. I'm sure that we will be better and better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Jindala. I think that one thing that would be very nice, maybe we can manage this during these next days, is we put down the structure a little bit of these years of Rinpoche's life, and then the people that have been present and then have had the experience can tell the details of the small stories connected to it. Like I remember now, my mom once was telling the story about this jeep that Rinpoche sent to to Tibet, like that, which is also another magical story connected, and also showing Rinpoche's guru devotion. Because when Rinpoche met, when actually our friend Rudi Schneider, also known as Lama Marpa Rudi, when the doctor, this very tall, big Swiss doctor, when he met Rinpoche in the very first time, he had his hobby of hunting. So he changed his mind and he gave up hunting. And he always liked cars. Still now he likes cars. And he had one Jeep from Mercedes that he would use for hunting. So as a sign to give up hunting, he offered to Rinpoche the Jeep. You know? And Rinpoche, he was so happy that he received the first car that someone gave to him. First time that he owns a car. And and it was this Mercedes Jeep. And Rinpoche knew Mercedes was a special car. And he was happy. So what he did with his car, he wanted to offer to his guru. That was in Tibet. So now I don't go into details. Another time maybe Jindala, my mom, can tell. My mom together with Claudia, they brought the Jeep from one place to another. And then they had problems with the Jeep. Many stories, but like very nice way also. But just like Rinpoche's determination, okay, I received the first car, I sent, and he was able to send the car from Italy to Shigatse in Tibet, okay, to make a present to his guru, you know. So this is like, and there are so many stories connected to all these moments. So I think it would be very nice for all of us in these next days. You know, tomorrow we can do a little bit more, and then the next days also, and maybe instead of just having memories popping out like this, if we make a little bit timeline, and in that certain period, each one of the persons that were present and then like to remember, and then together we can put up the different memories. I think this is something that would be very nice for everyone. Because also, you know, as Franco was saying, I was not interested so much about the Dharma in the sense of Buddhist philosophy or that, but was the person of Rinpoche, you know. And that was something so powerful for all of us. And when I started to study Buddhist philosophy in more details, you know, for me one of the most beautiful things was to see in Rinpoche the example of what we have on the books. And to see it put into practice, you know, in so many levels. So I think all these small stories that we have of so many things that have happened, one way it's important to tell them in order to keep memory alive, because time goes by fast. On the other level, it's also very important because inside all the stories there are many teachings for all of us. And for those of us who had the opportunity to be together with Rinpoche in all these moments, it's very important for us to remember and to keep our memory alive, and also to reconnect to the teachings, because when we remember the same event maybe 20, 30 years later, 10 years later, whatever, we look at it with a different eye. And then we can also learn something new by remembering. And for those of us that were not there, we can somehow be part of this history, and we can also learn from it together. So I think this is something that is very important and very joyful in a way, even though there is emotions, which is part of life, and it's good there to be emotions. No? Beautiful, very beautiful. not bad.
Little bit sad that it's not sitting there.
We have saudades.
Yeah, but
No?
sad, beautiful.
No, beautiful. So I think it's good, but it's good for us to have this opportunity to share all together. As Rinpoche did something that I have not seen many other masters do. Actually, I don't have seen no one else do. I have had, the other day I was counting, how many of teachers and gurus I had. And putting all of them together, they come to 22. So I met many lamas of all kinds. Really very, very special people. Some of them, they were gurus of Rinpoche. That Rinpoche have introduced me to. And they were like really incredible. But one thing that Rinpoche was doing that was in the ancient style, that I have not seen not other lamas doing, was to take care of disciples as a father and mother take care of his own child. Not only not making any difference between living the daily life with teachings and practice. It was all one. And taking on his own shoulders the needs of everyone around. Taking care of everyone, helping, this, I take care was one of his phrases, no? Whatever problem, I take care, no? And then always and Rinpoche was doing a lot of micromanagement, looking at everything and every detail, looking at every direction and taking care of everyone in so many levels, but always directed to the Dharma. No? Rinpoche sometimes he told me, when I see someone, if the person likes to be silent, I make the person need to talk more. If the person talks a lot, need to make silence. If the person likes to move, need to be still. If the person likes to be still, need to move. In a way, in the daily way, putting people outside of this comfort zone, but with good guidance, and also being very near to Rinpoche have never been easy to anyone. Because Rinpoche had this healing power, and when we go through a process of healing, the sickness manifests. And to be near to Rinpoche was, in a way, to see one's own defilements clear in one's own face. In many moments, things will pop up out, And sometimes I would look at Rinpoche and it looks like he would have fun, looking at that. I remember some situation, in particular 2 people that they had difficulties between themselves, and there was some, from my own perspective, some jealousy connection and some other competition also. And Rinpoche would very often ask both of them to do the same task. But very, very, very often. And each one of them, they would do the task like the most important thing in their lives, And then Rinpoche told me, no, he told me. And then, but through this, they would go through this process, and they would go through their own difficulties and their own conflicts, and things would pop out. And he had this ability to allow the defilements and the conflicts to manifest, but there he was to take care and to manage, and has said, I manage. And he will take care and guide and do this to everyone. So this has been something very special, and there is something just to add about that. When Rinpoche created Albagnano Center, at that time, Rinpoche was the moment to choose the name for the center. And then talking with Francesco gave the idea, Rinpoche, maybe we call Albagnano Meditation Healing Center. Rinpoche said, no, first healing. Healing Meditation Center. No? Because the point is healing. And through Rinpoche's blessing, Albagnano has this particular quality, which it's always here. Rinpoche's energy is here. Rinpoche had this incredible capacity to create holy places. Rinpoche gave a lot of importance in his life for pilgrimage, to go to holy places. Like many of us who are here, passed long time of our lives traveling with Rinpoche, going to all the holy places everywhere, because the power of blessings of the holy places. And he said many times, Albagnano should be our Bodh Gaya. Albagnano should be our Borobudur. Albagnano should be the place of pilgrimage, the holy place with the power of transformation. And he had this ability to transform the place. So if we see, Albagnano has this particular quality that no one is able to stay here and just remain in one's own comfort zone. If you stay here, if you come for a short period of time, it will be incredible because you can feel so much movement going inside. And you can understand things that you couldn't understand before. And you can see your emotions moving as before they were blocked. And it's very strong. To stay for a longer period, or you are willing to work on yourself constantly, or it can become like hell. Because it has this very powerful energy of transformation, of healing. No? And Rinpoche always, wherever he saw the ones that needed the most, that's where he would put most of his energy. Always, but one thing that I always saw also, he valued very, very much, he valued much more a good heart than an intelligent mind. No? This was very clear. For him to have a person with a good heart, with a good motivation, with a pure intention, this always meant much, much more, and to have mutual trust. Like if there was one thing I saw sometimes people saying to him that he really didn't like, it was when we Westerners, when we have a difficult, I go away. I say, what do you mean, First of all, we have commitment and we have trust to each other. We commit to each other fully. Then we can go through any difficulty, we can go through anything, but we never ever give up on each other. Something that he showed very clear to all of us. And I think also what my mom was saying in the beginning in Brazil when he came and he said, look, you don't need to ask because you have my trust. It was this, when Rinpoche saw that someone trusted him totally and in a very subtle and beautiful way, he also trusted each other. And this was something that he always valued very, very much, and we should continue in the same way. So I think I'm very grateful for this moment, all of us together here. Tomorrow we will be doing, in the morning we will do the Guru Puja, because tomorrow is the day in which Rinpoche had originally intended when we made the program. He said, the Sunday the 12th was the best day to do. Normally we used to do the long life puja during this period. So he had chosen this day. So we will do the puja tomorrow, and he said, the celebrations will be done, we do mostly on a Sunday, not the Tuesday, which was his actual birthday. And then Rinpoche said, that this year we make 1 full year of celebration. That's what he had said. You remember, Lama Caroline, when we were making the program? He said, 1 year celebration, And then... It's not in the way we intended. Yeah, just a little bit different, but we have this 1 year of celebration, and then... So we will do tomorrow this puja, so we come to the Guru Puja, similar like when we do also, as we are used to do in the long life puja, in which to honor the Guru, we come, we have a nice shower in the morning, we dress beautifully, we come as a way to celebrate and to offer. And then we will do, all the Geshes will be here, we will do the long life puja, then, sorry, not the long life puja, we will do the normal Guru Puja. Then as we will do the swift return prayers, each one of us will come and will offer the kata to request the blessings and so on. And as a way of honor also for Rinpoche. And then after that, in the afternoon, we will do together the sadhana of Kurukule. Kurukule was one sadhana, one practice of meditation with one manifestation of Buddha and Yidam, which is symbolizing the power of seduction also. And this was one of Rinpoche's main practice. And he only taught to us a few years ago. He didn't start teaching so much of Kurukula in the beginning. And it was a very important practice, and Rinpoche himself was a clear manifestation of Kurukula, because Rinpoche would, as he used to say, to be ego-friendly, he would somehow hook us, making us believe he's doing what we want, but finally he will make us do what we need, not what we want, So he will somehow, this is like through seduction, and then bring us on the correct path. So this was a very special quality of Rinpoche, very clear, and he had this very strong practice of Kurukule, which he passed to us. So we should continue, because this energy, this transmission that we have received, we should continue to follow it also. So tomorrow afternoon, we will do Kurukule Sadhana with accumulation of mantra, and then after that, we'll do Kurukule Fire Puja in the place where we will build the stupa for Rinpoche. Okay, just above here. And then we do that tomorrow afternoon. Okay? So, and then in the next days, as we will manage, maybe morning, afternoon, we check, then we create other moments also for sharing. And then we try to structure a little bit so that people can prepare their own memories and so on for that. Okay? So I think for today it's all. Thank you very much. And then, and actually what I wanted to, I didn't complete. When I say that Rinpoche was taking care of us like a father and mother takes care, he always gave a lot of importance to this family environment, not institutional environment. This was very much Rinpoche's style. He was not very much keen into institution. You know? One time I remember him making a joke. He said, for me, big institution is like hell. You know? Like, in that case was specifically relating to monastery. Intended like the structure of organization and so on. It was like, and in the very beginning when Rinpoche said to me, oh, we need rules in the center, please you make rules. And then he was the first one breaking them. Then I said, Rinpoche, I stopped making any rules. And I stopped because I said, I'm not going to make rules, then you come with 10,000 exceptions. I'm sorry, you know. I'm not going to do that. Then some years ago, Rinpoche came and said, no, we need rules. I said, okay. Then last time we wrote some rules of conduct for the center. I went to Rinpoche and I said, Rinpoche, you requested, here we did. I will read each one of the rules for you. If you see any rule that you need some exception, we just take the rule out. You know? Then he listened carefully. And he said, rules are necessary, especially the day I am not there, because they will be our guideline. No? Because when Rinpoche was physically present and when there were not so many people, you know, he would just manage everything. You know, he would just manage everything. So that time then he did, and it was like this. So this feeling of being together and sharing and talking, I think is very much into the way how Rinpoche intended, and he did. So I'm happy that we can continue with that also. Okay? We just do one moment Rinpoche's swift return prayer together, the one written by Trichan Rinpoche. Gyalpo Lama Heroyaka Dechen Tarpa Chogi Shayane Dechen Tapsheng Etenyim Poyachen Dechen Yab Yon Sungi Da Kyong Lo san tempe niente si peami trop ten de gyutsi kyang por trin le drove mariam pa ya chom Shempen le dro yarpe parte Gonkyo pa wo pa matsanamanki Metodu darol moyerkedre Kala chepe tsuge shekshintu Da cha dung we sul de yu tsam gong shi we ku yi dro wa zum gi su shi we sum gi chudra na war che shi we tu ni shen jam tse shi de sempa chembo nyur chen sho top ten du tsi nim po shen pen chun sem chen ran kam da mor de gu tsim tse drubwa rinpoche rime dro we nyen chi nyur chen sho drubwa kyo ni dro we shi der tsen da so nam kyan shi de ten to nyer je se dro wa shi de trong chot ma lep te si kyo sha ten zo yo chi da cha re mu chi shin drupa la lama concho sum ki tu jin da ten sun dorje shu den nam shi chin le ma ye dong tro yo tsu kye wa kun tu yan da la ma dan dral me che ki pe la long che chin sadan lam gi yun ten rab zo ne dorje changi kopa nyur to vesho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin delek pe kuncho sumke chingelo kuncho sumke modrup sol kuncho sumke trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. NgalSo a noite ou ao meio-dia, possam as três joias conceder-nos suas bênçãos, possam as três joias ajudar-nos a alcançar todas as realizações, possam as três joias espalhar muitos sinais auspiciosos no caminho de nossas vidas. Al amanecer o al anochecer, por la noche o durante el día, puedan las tres joyas concedernos sus bendiciones, puedan ayudarnos a obtener todas las realizaciones y colmar el sendero de nuestras vidas con muchos signos de buenos auspicios. répondre de la grâce, puisse les trois joyaux nous dispenser toutes les réalisations, puisse les trois joyaux remplir notre vie de signes de bon augure. Omahun Temba Lama Sangye Rinpoche, Kyoba Lama Tamcho Rinpoche, Dremba Lama Gendo Rinpoche, Kyabne Kuncho Sumla Chopa, Locho Sampo Pagyo Trashi Pa, Tuche Tempe Chinle Yarngoda, Peke Drodo Zambe Zebrach, Panden Lama Shela Chopa, Kanshi Trimba Tsamgi Chinangi, Parche Kunsele Shi Trinlenam, Soze Gyaje Shungden Ringa, Tensun Kordan Chela Chopa, Kinam Chuchin Sowa Tabe, 2000 Kanto Nebe Sachodir, Nedan Ulpon Tapso Shiwadan, Chedan Trashi Pewar Zedu. Buon appetito, buonanotte, ci vediamo domani mattina.
Lo lascio a te, Gianni. Sì, grazie. Grazie infinite a te.